Questions. Right, we can go roll through them, but comfortable with them all, mate.
I need to load
that's all
I need to
good.
load the intro file as well. Oh shit!
Yeah, I've sent it all to you through.
Yeah, I got it.
Drive.
I got it.
That's
I got it
the
this
annoying
morning.
thing about Discord is that the file is like 250 megabytes, like the little intro clips that I make, and
Right.
Discord only lets you do like half of that, and it's like it's the worst setup ever.
Yeah, it's pretty shite.
Yeah, 30-second clip, and you can't even post it anywhere, rather than go through the Google Drive and then send the file, then download the file. It's Google Store. That's the worst thing about talking about Google when you've got a Google phone. Google starts asking you questions.
Yeah. God damn, it's cold. Son of a bitch. Dox is gonna have frozen nut syndrome by the time this show is over.
Didn't we talk more about your testicles? You know, Rangers were playing Hibs in the Scottish Cup semi-final today, and they got absolutely pumped, and I'm very, very upset.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, they got beat 3-1.
Scottish football, isn't it?
Yeah. Everybody was saying, because Gerrard left and went to Villa, and everybody was like, oh, well, this will be the time that the Rangers players step up to show the new manager where they get in there. It's like, sack up. They're fucking fish.
Yeah. Can't be ours.
Like, it was just, I was sitting here yelling at the telly just because of it. And I'm like, why am I yelling at the telly?
It's not going to impact anything, is it, buddy?
No, exactly, but you're still keen at the whole fucking, like, as if you're there, and like, I know I could have went there, but it was just heartbreaking to see, especially when Celtic won yesterday, and it was like, I know what's that.
Yeah. Did all I've just like clicked on, by the way? So do you know how you've got a lot of mugs in your background?
Yes.
All of the handles look like seeds. So you've got Chrissy C.
I mean, that makes it. I thought you were going to say that you just noticed that I've got a Minecraft mug.
No. I've seen what's on them. They're fine, but it's like.
I noticed that myself.
And you haven't got enough empty bottles on the top, so I need to step up your game there, mate.
See, the funniest thing is they're not actually empty bottles. It's
they're full.
Yeah, it's all little miniatures that I've been collecting.
Alright guys, like, about 5 seconds I'm gonna roll the stinger, so shush faces.
No.
Alright, here we go.
Welcome to the drunk tank. Take a shot and much thanks for you coming out tonight. Have a seat and come in, yeah. Now turn the lights down low. Drinks are in the back. We're about to start the show. Okay, landed and killed in the land of the free. Coming together to spread all the peace. There's more to the story than you'll ever see. Hear out both sides before you just agree. Some of it's funny and some of it's deep. Open your mind and I can guarantee that we will leave you on the edge of your seats. Now over the Dox and the man Chrissy C, okay.
Alright, happy Sunday. What's going on? Welcome to the Drunk Tank, episode 6. Hey Chris, what's up, man?
Hi. I know a lot. Excited for the day.
Why is your camera stuck? Got it. Fixed it. Never mind. Technical issues abound.
As you sitting, look at that picture you've left me on.
Your camera's stuck. It's not working.
Oh.
I thought it was my issue. It's your issue.
Right, we'll do a wee quickie. Boom, boom.
As we take a second to guess the cold got him. Exactly.
Is my Discord fucked up?
I don't know. I can hear you. Oh, it wouldn't be a Drunk Tank episode without something going wrong. Knock on wood. As we wait for Chris's cam to restart, I guess we'll roll the intro feed for our guest and introduce him. So, be right back.
Yeah.
Headphone warning in case this is loud for those of you that are watching live. I'm not sure what the sound level is because I can't adjust it in the thing. So, here you go. Here's our guest. Can everybody welcome to the show, Anthony Smith-Wells, aka Gay Mackem. Anthony, you're not on stream right now because Chris's camera's fucking the show up.
I know. I'm having to go under my desk because my camera's now just frozen in half together.
The professionalism is astonishing, guys. It's awesome. What a warm welcome, though. What a warm welcome.
We really like to try on the podcast on the Drunk Tank to make everybody feel welcome and have a professional vibe.
Yeah, we're real professional right now. Real fucking professional right now.
Well, when you get to finally see my lovely Movember attempt, then
hey, look, he's on. All right, we got shit working. Okay, we're professionals.
Welcome, Chris.
Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Anthony. Welcome to the show. Thank you for giving us your time and hanging out with idiots like us. But before we do the whole rigmarole of the show, we have to get through the legal disclaimers. Otherwise, the lawyers beat my door down. If you are of legal drinking, if you are joining us with a drink, live or a VOD or on audio, please make sure you are of legal drinking age in your country of residence. Do not text and drive, and please do not drink and drive. That's satisfied. We can properly welcome Anthony to the show. Anthony, what's up, buddy?
I'm pretty happy, to be fair, at the moment. Life's good. Life's good.
Good.
Life's good. Well, apart from a couple of issues with, like, streaming life, but yeah,
we'll get into it. We'll talk about it.
That's all good at the minute. It's looking good. Happy.
Good. Chris, and you, how are you?
I'm doing good now. The camera that is supposed to be working and is kind of being a bit of a dick right now. But apart from that, I'm actually doing no too bad. I'm a little upset about the football that happened today, but that's another story.
We'll jump into that too. We'll talk about that shit.
I don't want to talk about that.
You don't want to talk about it.
We'll just move on.
All right, we'll just move on. So, Anthony, seeing as how you're the guest, what are you drinking today? What are you enjoying on the show?
I'm not too sure you have this across the pond, and I am of legal drinking age, so
I couldn't tell. I was going to card you.
I'm drinking a nice beverage of Kopparberg. It's a Swedish cider. It's a fruited cider. This one is mixed fruits, which is raspberry and blackcurrant.
Nice. Again, I like blackcurrant, actually. I'm a fan.
It's lovely. Don't tell my parents about my drinking habits. That would be...
Oh, yeah. I'm sending this show to direct to them after the show. I'll be like, do you know what your son did? They'll be like, we're so disappointed. So, it's Kopparberg, huh? You said it's Swedish?
Yeah, Swedish cider. Have you ever tried it before?
No, I've had cider before, but not that one because I don't think we have it over here. And if we do, it's in a store that I haven't visited. I apologize. I got a frog in my throat. Yeah, but it's good though, right? It's not too intense. Like, what's it taste like?
Like the closest flavor I think you might get it from is like Gatorade.
Okay.
It's an alcoholic Gatorade. So if you like that, Yeah, it's super sweet, super crisp, and yeah, perfect when
Nice.
it's cold.
Excellent. That's awesome. That's awesome. Not too high on the ABV, I take it.
No, it's 4.5, so it's just like a normal beer.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Desperado.
Haven't you
which is
drank
a
that one
beer.
before?
Have I? I don't know.
Not on
Maybe
the
I did.
show.
That was
I
last
don't-
Season.
I think
yeah, not on the show.
I know. I don't think you drank one on the show, but I'm pretty sure you had one when we were gaming.
Oh yeah, I drink it quite a lot. It's beer with tequila, so it makes it feel a wee bit better than drinking just a normal beer. Like I know we often have that conversation about how much you like buds and stuff like that, but I like to switch it up just that wee bit
Right.
and just have something a little bit different rather than the generic beer that you drink.
Mm-hmm.
Can you show it off the branding and the packaging?
Yeah.
So
I mean, if they want to pay us,
Right? I'll drink that if they back the truck up to my backyard.
I do have to say, Chrissy, it is a good choice. Like if you're out in a pub or whatever, that is the closest I get to a lager or an ale because it needs that extra little bit of kick to it to make it worth your while.
You don't like just drinking regular
yeah.
beer, Anth? You got to have something else in it.
Yeah, because nah, not for me. Thank you very much.
That's cool. Hey, anybody in chat? If I sound real low, please let me know so I can try and bump my mic or whatever. Because last week, we posted the VOD of the show, and apparently a lot of people couldn't hear me. So Discord can hear me. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me as well. My mixer says I'm just touching the yellow, so everything should be good this week. But yeah, let's talk about it. We're all drinking age. Like Chris and I have reveled in our bar stories. Do you got a particular banger of a bar story there, Anth?
Oh, I've got plenty, but I'm not sure they're safe or will not put me in jeopardy going forward. So,
well, it's an 18+ stream and it's an 18+ show, so you're safe. Fire away.
I will talk about because it kind of leads on to a question as well. So, what's the first drink that you drunk and threw up on? Because that drink for me, I can never have ever again.
Oh, that's
and that
easy.
was when I was 11 years old. Me and my brother, who's 2.5 years older than me, he goes into the local shop, buys a bottle of Jack Daniels for I think it was like €12. I have half, he has half.
12-year-old's good.
Yeah, as an 11-year-old walking through the sunny beaches of Majorca, whipping out my ding-a-ling to some passers-by, saying, "Wouldn't you like to have some of that?" When I'm 11 is no go anymore, and the smell of it makes me just reminisce of that memory. So,
well, chat says the stream
that just shows you the massive difference between the young Scot drinking and the young English drinking. Because when I was 11 and started my tenure as a Scotsman or alcoholic, wherever you're from, my thing was going down to the shops, getting some random guy to go in for you, and you would get a 3-litre bottle of Frosty Jacks for about £1.20. Because back then alcohol was worth it. And going up to the skate park, there was about 6 of us, and we all got a bottle each, and you'd sit up in the park, literally not that far from the house, and just be there. And my party trick was always get absolutely really drunk on Frosty Jacks, think I can skateboard, find out very quickly I can't skateboard, and then that was how I enjoyed my evening. I didn't quite go around.
So you thought you were Tony Hawk then? Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I mean, like, you play the game, you think, do you know what? The real thing must be the exact same as me doing it with my thumbs, and it never ever works out that way.
just hold down triangle and you'll grind through this entire curb. You're fine.
Exactly.
Especially when you're on Frosty's Jacks.
Yeah. That was my mindset. So I never ever exposed myself. So definite difference in cultures there.
Yeah, I
from the
wasn't
North
expecting
England,
that.
so...
I wasn't expecting Anth to be like, oh yeah, I was 11 and I drank Jack and whipped my dick out. You know, that's what you do. That's what you do. For me, the first drink I ever had, I couldn't tell you exactly what it was because my mom used to have like adult card game nights with my aunts and uncles, and they would make this punch shit. And me and my cousins would sneak out and grab cups of it, but we didn't know it was alcoholic, right? So we've been doing this for a while. We would like take cups of this punch and go back to the room and then like just hang out, wrestle, watch, TV, whatever. Just act like fucking idiots, getting progressively more shit-faced because we didn't know it was booze. We just thought it was, like she put like 7-Up or whatever. I'm assuming it was like 7-Up, fruit juice, and like Seagram 7, because that was what my aunt drank a lot. So that kind of mixture. And then one year, my mom come in the kitchen, and I think it was like 7, 8 at the time. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm getting some punch." And she goes, "What?" I was like, I'm getting the punch out the bowl because he said it's fruit punch. She goes, "How many have you had?" I said, "I don't know, 3, 4 cups." She goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you? That's adult punch." I'm like, "And it's good. The fuck's your point?" She goes, "I'm not going to smack the shit out of you because you're cussing because you're probably drunk." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm drunk?" She goes, "There's booze in there, Dox." I was like, "But you said it's fruit punch." She said, "Yes, it is punch for the adults." And then my smart ass goes, "Well, who's the fucking bartender now who should have told the minors not to drink the punch because there's booze in it?" That got me smacked. She took my punch away, which pissed me off because I was enjoying myself, getting a little froggy. She said, just go to the room." And then, like 20 minutes later, I get this from my cousin. "Yo, I don't feel so good." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "How many cups of punch have you had?" So I don't know, 5 or 6. I was like, "Dude, I was on like 3 because I put ice in mine. I let it marinate. I enjoy it a little bit." He goes, "Yeah, I was just thirsty." I was like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm like 7, 8 at the time. I don't know what to do." He goes, "My stomach's rumbling." I'm like, "You gotta use the bathroom?" He goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "Oh," I'm like, "You should probably go to the bathroom. You should probably go to the bathroom." And I go, "Mom, Jackson's throwing up." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "He had 5 cups of punch that you didn't tell us had booze in it, dumbass."
I can't believe you got a punch for having some punch. That's.
I did. My mom was. Well, I probably got it because I was being mouthy like a motherfucker because I had a couple in me. But the first
one thing that I don't think I've only ever and I don't know, it isn't a Scottish thing. I think it's just because I'm fucking smart. But it's like, I can't remember the last time I had a hangover or threw up from excessive drinking. I don't know, I have rituals where it's like every 5 or 6 drinks I'll have a pint of water, right? Which is just common sense. Mm-hmm. But it's like, before I go to my bed, I'll stay up for an hour with no alcohol and just kind of mellow there, enjoying it. And then, I don't know if I learned that for Holland, because you used to go to Holland and then smoke and then just mellow there for a couple of hours. But it's one thing I cannot remember the last. I think my 21st birthday, which was 10 years ago, was the last time I can remember throwing up for alcohol.
Yeah,
it was always quite funny when you hear about everybody else or I threw up with this, because it's how can you throw up every fucking weekend?
You are putting the Scottish name to shame there, though, Chrissy. So I do need to emphasise that that is not the typical Scot that I know. The Scots that I acquaint with, shall we say, they've got a phrase: if you don't whitey, you haven't had a good nighty. Which basically means if you don't throw up,
if you whitey, you've kind of just wasted all that alcohol. Like, I just don't see the point in wasting all that. Like, having that, and because as soon as you whitey, that is basically your system now. I'm just not going to ruin it.
Right.
Like, I will say I'm no the typical Scot because I don't drink as much as it may seem. Like, I know that Scottish people have this kind of, like, they're always on it, and they're always fucking thing. Whereas, like, I'll have a drink during the podcast, and I'll maybe have a drink now and again on a stream, but most of the time I'm sober. But that's because for my work, I would drive, so it was kind of like, I would, if I lost my license, that's me kind of, I've lost my job. So, like, for the last, like, 10 years, I've not been able to drink because of work. But still, I feel as if, like, when so many people, like, even my pals, they'll go out on a night out, like, Friday, Saturday, which that was quite a hurtful thing when I discovered when I was, like, 24, 25, I couldn't do a 2-day bender anymore. But like, they would go out for like the 2 nights in the weekend and get so leathered that they A, couldn't remember shit, and B, just like shat everywhere, like fucking coming out both ends, and you're like, how is that an enjoyable night out? Like, how is getting absolutely steaming in the pub, shitting and throwing up on the poor homeless man outside in his tent in the back alley, and then going home thinking, I've got a kebab, that's a win? Like, that's not how this works.
Well, you've got to be fair. I get it, but I don't. I think it's trying to get it as close to that point before the body just rejects everything that you want to do at. And as soon as you're at that point, that's what everybody's aiming for. Just some people go over the edge a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a fine line. Like, you're not even talking, it's a drink or two. It's like
a mouthful.
Yeah, like that's where you can be on that fucking bread and butter, and then as soon as you take that extra swally, and then it's like game over. Like, I know that's the kind of levels that we're talking here. It's not quite as cutthroat as you think, but no, it's just, it's been one thing that never. When I was younger, it was like, I can always remember going down to like my sister's on a weekend. It was always a Sunday night because Margaret were always off on a Monday, which was hilarious. So our weekends was basically a Sunday night, and we would go down, we'd get steaming, we'd have like jelly shots and fucking gummy bears soaked in vodka and Skittle, like all the things like that. And we would be playing like Just Dance and Sing Star and all that to like fucking 6, 7 in the morning, walk home and be like, that was a fucking great time. And then now it's like, I'll have like a few like whiskies or something like that, and it's like, right, well, I need to go to my bed. It's like 10:30. Let's go. I'm not staying it.
10:30. What the fuck?
The night's just begun for like most people at that point. But there you go. But
that's what I can never fucking get is people going, we're going to turn up at the house at 9 and then we'll go out to the bar for 11. Why? Why go out to the bar for 11?
What do you mean? That's the perfect time.
Exactly. That's when the band is starting.
No, I want to be out there at 7:30, and then I can be up the road for 11.
Oh, you're the reason that they go. You're the reason that they go out at 11, so they miss people that need to have their nap and bedtime by that point.
I don't throw up.
No shit. No shit. So what's the last thing you remember throwing up on, Anth?
Oh,
because you brought it up.
Oh yeah. So the last time I remember throwing up was 2012. And that was on a cocktail. So when I say a cocktail, I had about 30 drinks that night. Yeah, so I had like shots of Cambo, vodka. We'd basically got like a bottle collection, a bit like what Chrissy's got, but like big size ones. We basically had a tray of them, played a game of snakes and ladders. So we had all of them. You had 4 or 5 pints of cider, a Disaronno, a Copperberg. Yeah, just going hammer at it. The aim was basically at about 3 o'clock. We're like, we can get a taxi, which costs 70 quid, which is roughly about like at the time probably like $150 to get home.
Right.
Or we can like stay out until 6 o'clock, go to the casino, have some more drinks, and then get the first train back at like 6:30. So yeah, between that 3 and 6 o'clock, that's when everything just went went to pot. But this is again pretty much like Chrissy, like a good 9 years ago, 10 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
2012. Yeah. It's been a while. Like since then. No, I'm lying. I'm lying.
Oh,
it was 3 weeks ago.
No. It is the same year, kinda. It's 2012 into 2013, and this was just me and my partner. We went to New York for New Year's.
mm-hmm.
We did the
That's rough.
the Planet Hollywood, and we saw Taylor Swift on the stage.
T-Swizzle.
T-Swizzle. And yeah, that night I drank 3 bottles of champagne to myself.
Nice.
Some lagers, and yeah, I spilt a couple of champagnes on my partner's leg, got home to the hotel, and just spewed over the side of the bread. So sorry, Holiday Inn near Times Square.
I'm sure they accept your apology at this point.
Yeah, they forgot about it. The staff's long gone, hopefully.
Hopefully. With the way shit is over here, probably not. Yeah, I mean, the last thing I threw up on was probably 2000.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm responsible individual, dad and all that shit. My buddy Brano, he's my best friend from like all day. Like that dude, like he's just like, I can't explain how that dude is like family to me. So we used to like split a bottle of tequila on the weekends. He'd go get a bottle of tequila and we'd like go gaming and play video games and then chill at his house and then just like drink tequila, right? No big fanfare, no party. We're just sitting there drinking tequila, watching stupid shit. Infomercials, bad horror movies. Sometimes we were doing RPGs. We go back to his place and just chill. Well, this particular time, our female friend, who is now his wife, called me up the night we were supposed to hang out on AIM, Instant Messenger. She was like, hey, are you and Brano getting together tonight? I was like, yeah, we're probably just going to go hang out at his house and drink tequila and bullshit. And she's like, well, do you mind if I hang out? I was like, I don't know. You got to ask Brian. She's like, well, I don't want to call him. I'm like, well, then you're not hanging out. So after some back and forth, I was like, just fucking nut up and call him. I'm sure it's fine. And she's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, just fucking nut up and call him. So she finally calls him. I get a message from Brano, goes, hey, is it cool if Nikki comes by? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm totally down with that, right? So we all get out to Brian's house, and his parents are gone because they're dope as shit. I love those people. And they took off. They were out on one of their whatever. And we just started drinking. Sessions. Huh?
What?
Oh no, I think they were out at the movies or some shit. His parents are the shit. They were like, I would never. His parents were like they were so nice. They still are. Yeah. They're still around, but yeah, I mean, like I call his mom, like that'll tell you, like seriously. So we're just drinking, and I fucked up. Right, we get about halfway through the night. Nikki and Brian are chilling. We're all chilling. I'm like, man, I'm fucking hungry. I haven't ate nothing. And Brian's like, oh, well, we've been drinking tequila. What do you want? I was like, well, I ain't got a whole lot of money, so I don't want to order anything. I'll just go rummage around in the kitchen, right? So I end up making the biggest mistake of my life drinking tequila. I snatched a pear. I proceeded to destroy this pear, then went right back to drinking tequila. Brian, about a half hour later, starts going, I don't feel so well. I'm like, man, what's wrong with you? He goes, I don't know. He stumbles out the back door of the house, goes out to the tree in the backyard, and hurls all over the tree. And Nikki and I are just roasting him at this point. Just, oh, you lightweight pussy. You gotta be, it's only tequila, blah, 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 right? About 20 minutes later, I'm in the middle of just ripping him. And all of a sudden, halfway through something, I'm like, caught it, right? Caught it in here. Run to the same tree, same pile, all over. Come back, lay on the fucking picnic table and be like, I don't feel so good. And Nikki is sitting there laughing at me and Brian because Brian's on the little like seating bench. I'm on the top of the picnic table. We're both lying there going, I don't feel so well. After that, I don't drink tequila. I don't drink tequila.
Karma had a way on that one, I think.
Yeah. I think I was definitely a karma kind of like, oh, so you think it's funny?
Yep,
exactly. Yourself then.
Exactly. The universe was having my ass on that one, but yeah. Aside from like tequila, aside from that one incident, I've never really thrown up. But like, I don't drink a lot because I grew up in bars. My mom was a single mom off and on for a long time, and her predominant form of income was bartending. Like, she was the best bartender in the city I grew up in. Like, she was literally like, you think like free agents in sports are heavily recruited? Like, when my mom said she was switching bars, like, our phone would literally ring from owners of bars being like, yo, Spike, you want to come work for me? I'll give you this. And my mom would literally like turn down half a dozen offers and then go work at a bar for a couple of years and then go to the next one. So I spent a lot of time growing up in bars. Like, we would be at the end of the bar doing homework, and like, she'd throw pizza and wings at us, or fries, or pub burgers, and we knew all the regulars. So like, I saw what like hardcore drinking would do. So like, it never was a thing for me. Like, every once in a while, like when I became a legal drinking age, I would do shots with my friends, and then I would pace it with soda. So I never really got like hammered. Until I went to Gen Con. Oh, Gen Con 2000. That was. Whew. Do you guys know what you guys heard of Gen Con, right?
No.
Okay. Gen Con.
I remember the conversation, but
yeah, a little bit.
Sure.
So Gen Con is the big convention for like tabletop RPGs and like card games and stuff. It's a huge event. It used to be held in Milwaukee until they moved it to Indianapolis. Well, in 2000, we went to Gen Con, and I spent more at the bar than I spent on food, hotel, and shopping.
Respectable.
Oh, dude, that was. Oof. I got so ripped that year. I pissed on the side of the Federal Building without knowing about it.
I bet they did though.
The security guard almost caught me. I was running down the alley trying to zip my dick back into my pants. So yeah, that was fun. But, yeah,
why is it? Why is it like when we get drunk, the pee just flies everywhere? It comes out just like so often.
The worst thing is like once you like open the floodgates.
Yeah.
It is as if like I can be sitting drinking for a good solid 6 hours and no have to pee once, and then I'll go, right, I'm going to quickly go and pee, and then for like the next hour, it's like every 3 or 4 minutes, you're like, oh fuck, I'll have to go and pee.
Breaking the seal.
Yeah, like that's the one thing that just always confused me, because it's one of the reasons why, like, obviously, when I drink, I stick to like whiskey or beers or stuff like that, because I don't drink clear spirits, because clear spirits makes me blackout functional drunk as opposed to timey. Like, to the point where I spoke about the story when I was in the Czech Republic and got vodka drunk. Or not, it was this wee bottle here. This is a plum liqueur.
Yep.
That these groups of guys, it was when I went to Holland, and I used to work with a superbike team, and one of the races was in the Czech Republic. This like slapdash, very, very Eastern European little fucking village where like you could get your shoe shine, your toothbrush, and your post done on the one little building kind of thing. And these people make this plum liqueur, and it was just one fucking barbecue that was really, really good. And then this shit here, I think I must have had about 11 or 12 shots yet. And I felt fucking perfectly fine. It's one of the drinks where you're perfectly fine, even being outside. But I felt bad for the guy that was pouring it, because the Czech Republic have this sort of tradition where if they offer you a drink, they take a drink with you.
Oh.
So the guy that's pouring the drink, he can go to 10 different people and go, oh, here's a drink. But he has to take a drink for everyone. So you're having one, he's having 10 as he goes round. So the guy that's offering the drinks usually changes every hour because they all just pass out as they go along the line kind of thing. But this stuff, I had about 10 or 11 shots. I was feeling fucking smooth as fuck. You felt confident. You got the effects, like those sort of effects of drunkenness where you're confident. I'm the greatest fucking singer. Look at me dancing and all that.
Right.
But you don't feel the fall down drunk
And your goals
until you have another drink. And it was fucking Carling beer.
Oh,
Best fucking beer in the
no!
world. And I had half a can and then do not remember the rest of the night. But I was functional. We went into Prague. I spent an evening with the Czech mafia. Tried to get several people killed. But I don't remember shit. And that was the moment where I went, I cannot drink clear spirits because this has happened more than once. And that was
How many vendettas do you have?
Hmm?
How many vendettas do you have? Like getting the Czech mafia to kill people?
The worst is it was just people like that. We were like, apparently we were in a bar in the middle of Prague, right? It was like above a strip club, I'm sure.
Probably.
And apparently it was like somebody was walking by and I was just turning around and going, make them sleep with the fishes and shit like that. Like, just because he walked by me. Like, I just turned into this absolute horrible fucking person that was just like, that guy's got hair, fuck him. Like, but I can't remember shit. All that happened was the next day, kind of round about 11, 12 o'clock, the rider who I was working for was like, do you have a good night? I was like, I think so. Like, I couldn't have been that late after, because they had all left at like 11 o'clock. I was like, I mean, I don't think I was that late in after yous. They're like, you've been here 20 minutes. It's like, they brought you back 20 minutes ago. You said fuck off to me, put you in your bed, and then you've woke up. Well, okay.
Yeah, I've never hung with the Czech mafia.
Well, I mean, the good thing is I've got that in my back pocket now. Like, for the entire rest of that weekend, I was called Fishes, and every time I've spoke to anybody, that is now my nickname, is just Fishes.
Right.
So, like, I got something with it. The Czech mafia like me. That's always a win. But for then, that's like vodka and all that kind of stuff. I've just went, I just can't drink that because it's just no safe. Like, me personally, I will end up doing fucking stupid shit.
What about you, Anthony? Any brushes with organized crime on a bender?
Oh, no.
Thankfully, no.
No, but like that Taylor Swift night, there was the US military involved.
Oh, wow. What happened?
I climbed on a tank, because why not?
That's a no-no, Anth.
Yeah, I was just drinking with him.
I climbed on top of a tank because obviously drunk. It's just turned New Year, and then this cop in this blue uniform just goes like, "Get the fuck down."
Get off the tank.
I was like, "What? What? There's other people on top of these things. I just climbed the nearest one," and they're like, "Now get the fuck down." Like, okay.
Oh my god! Yeah, they got dudes climbing on tanks. Got dudes trying to get people to sleep with the fishes here. I'm pissing on the federal building. Like, how am I the most responsible one of the three of us? That ain't right.
You're American.
Probably.
Yeah, you start drinking later. Like, what were we, 11? Oh, not to be fair, you were 8. So.
Yeah, 7, 8 as my first drink, but I never like drank. But it's funny, Chris. You mentioned people doing shots down the line. When I went to Gen Con consecutive years, we went back to the same bar, and I knew the bartenders. So we had one night we went out. It was a bunch of us, all of us, like 9 of us. So Nikki, Brian, the whole crew. Nikki was 19, and we got her into the bar because there was this line out the bar. Right, we were going to the bar, and there was a line out the bar, and I was sort of in front of the group. I was like, hold up, don't worry about it. I'll get us in, right? So I walk past the line up to the bar, and I kind of got the bartender's attention. I think his name was John. I think it was John and Mike. We paid these guys rent in tips. I was like, yo, John, what's the deal? He's like, oh, it's a busy night, Docs. What do you want? Or like, what can I do for you? I was like, how long's the wait? He goes, for you? No, wait, just come right in. Line next to us was like, what the fuck? So John goes, well, what do you need? I said, I need about 9 shots and 4 or 5 mixed drinks. He goes, okay, got you. And I looked over and it was this nice, like, club. Like, it had plush seating, had some nice, like, house music playing, really fucking nice place. And the bartender starts taking my order, and the guy standing next to me goes, well, what are you doing? Bartender literally looks at him and goes, hold on a second. This guy paid mine and his rent this weekend. You can wait. We'll get you. It's fine. I was like, you don't need to do that. He's like, no, it's fine. I look over in the corner. I'm like, oh, we're over in the corner. He goes, yeah, that's where you guys hang out. Well, we got it all marked off. I said, well, how come the pool tables are covered up? He goes, oh, we were saving them for you. The other guys in line were like, who the fuck are these guys? So all of us roll in. We get drinks rolling to the table, or the tables, but every time I'd go up to get drinks for the group, I would have to do shots with the bartenders. And we were doing what was called Surfers on Acid. And what that is a concoction of Jägermeister, Chambord, Malibu rum, and pineapple juice. It looks like blood, it tastes like shit.
Sounds it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, that was... But I swear to God, that night I must have had 20 shots, because every shot I did with the crew, I did a shot with the bartender. So I was like your Czech guy. I was doing double shots the whole night. Oh, I woke up falling out of the closet I was sleeping in the hotel, sleeping on my neck. So I was laying in the closet in the hotel, and somehow I had worked my way up the wall, and I was sleeping kind of on an angle on my neck, and Nikki threw open the closet. I don't remember if she had a top on that day or not. And I sort of like fell out of the closet, and my head was like between her legs looking up at Nikki like, I've woken up the worst sights. So yeah. I know what swapping, or not swapping, but I know what double shotting is. That shit's fucking insane. Yeah. But anyway, drunken revelry aside, let's get into some meaningful conversation with our guest, Anthony Smith-Wells, aka Gay Mackem. First question, Anthony, if you don't mind answering it. Why the name switch? Because I know you when you were Anthony Smith-Wells, and now you're Gay Mackem on like everything. When did that happen, and what's up with that?
So basically, if you Googled my old handles, somebody stalked me to the point of they basically knew my home address, everything about my life. So I was like, yeah, let's rebrand. And I was like, okay, what should I rebrand to? Well, 1, I'm gay, and 2, I'm from Sunderland, and everybody from Sunderland is known as a Mackem.
Nice.
It was like, I'm that, and I'm that. They're the 2 like normal things I introduce myself as. So there you go. I'm a Gay Mackem. There you go. It's anybody from the northeast or most parts of the UK will know what that means instantly. Explaining that across Twitch is it doesn't translate very well, because I don't know if you know much about UK culture, but like
I know
every town and city has their own individual nickname for what they are.
Yep.
So like I'll just do a couple of examples. So if you're from Newcastle, you're a Geordie. If you're from Sunderland, you're a Mackem. If you're from Middlesbrough, you're a Smog. And if you're from Hartlepool, you're a Monkey Hanger.
Mm. Well then.
Yeah, basically every town or city has its own nickname. Bit like how your sports teams work, right? It's a bit like you've got the Dolphins, everybody from Miami, everybody from Chicago's the Bulls, and you're like, that's how it works. Like, you normally pick the local team, but it's more how the culture or what the city was founded on. So Mackem as a word is because we used to make boat ships. So we used to mack them. That's the way we used to say them. We used to make them. We used to mack them, and the Georges used to tack them. They used to take them.
Nice.
we were Mackems. They were Tackums, but they didn't like Tackum, so they went to Geordie instead.
Nice.
It makes
That's
a
cool.
lot more sense now. Like, I wasn't too sure where that came from as well, but I do understand that, like, if you're from Glasgow, you're a Ouija. If you're from Fife, you're a Chukter. If you're from Edinburgh, you're a cunt. So it's like, we've got like, I can understand, like, that puts on a level with me now that actually makes a lot more fucking sense. Because I was like, is it like a surname? Is it like a nickname for school? But it actually that's so much wisdom and mind blowing.
and that's why it's red and white as well, because our local area loves the red and white Donnage.
Yeah.
English, Sunderland, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. We have similar stuff, like you said. A lot of our people over here identify with their sports teams, but we also have like regional nicknames. Like my family comes from Upper Michigan, so like everybody up there is a Youper.
What? A
Youper? Yeah, a Youper. Basically,
isn't that a ball with the big nose, or is that Hubert?
That's Hubert. That's Cubert, actually.
But, there you go.
Yeah, you're called Youpers because it's basically you smash Upper Peninsula together, so you're an Upper Peninsula person. They just call you a Youper. And there's a bunch of like bad jokes about being fucking a drunken idiot, being a Youper, or like sleeping with deer. Because literally in Upper Michigan, there's 3 things to do. Literally, hunt, drink, and fuck. That's it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good life.
I mean, it's not bad. When I was working as a DJ up there, when I lived up there as a DJ, I love hunting season because I didn't hunt, but I hunted the ladies that came in the bar on Widow's Weekend.
Widow's Weekend?
Yeah, that's what they called it. Widow's Weekend. It was the first weekend of hunting season. Bar DJs and bartenders would end up getting all the fun and extra tips because these women, their men, went and sat in a shack with other dudes, and they were needy. So we provided a service.
Anonymized, obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, so there's Youpers, there's Southerners, there's Florida man, there's New Yorkers, there's like the hippies and yuppies from California. You got your Pacific Northwestern people like me who are like, we wear fucking wet dry sandals and cargo shorts and drink kombucha. So I get the Mackem. I definitely get it. Like we have similar stuff. So yeah. But you mentioned that you were gay, and we kind of wanted to get your perspective on some stuff because
sure.
We're not, Chris and I are not that. So, and you're a streamer. So one of the things we wanted to talk about was LGBTQA plus representation and what it's like being a streamer of that orientation. Because in my household, I make a joke all the time. I'm the only straight guy in my household. Because like my girlfriend's bi, all my kids are different orientated. So, but yet on stream, like when I play dating sims, whatever piques my fancy, I'll romance it. Right? I have no problem. Like, I played Boyfriend Dungeon and loved the shit out of it. Like, I was dating dudes left and right. I was like, let's fucking go, right? But in real life, I'm all. That's the only thing in the game, minus the one chick in that romance her too. So fuck off, Chris.
Where was the Dias and the books and?
But I mean, I'm curious to know, like, if your perspective or your experience as a streamer is different than, say, like mine or Chris's because of your orientation.
To be fair, I think it would be, but I think it would be different regardless of the streamer. Not every single streamer has their own individual journey. I think that's the same across the board. I think I'm exposed to a couple of extra things that you might never really come across unless you make that easily identifiable to somebody who might want to attack that. But the main reason I chose to like identify that straight off the bat is, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm relatively straight passing, and
Oh, 100%.
When I was Anth Smith Wells, and people were coming in and they were being a little bit sexist, a bit forward about like what they wanted to do with women, and expecting me to agree with that. And I was like, "What? That's so uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a stranger to you. Why are you telling me this?" Also, I wanted to make it abundantly clear that the word gay is not that taboo.
No.
It's there for me and therefore my audience to use as a community guider. If you're looking for somebody who's gay on Twitch, it's absolutely horrible to do so until a couple of changes over the last 2 or 3 months. Like initially, when I did that change, there was no real quick way to find it unless you were searching for the words themselves. So
Right.
the person had to either have that in their bio or they had to have their name with it. And I thought, yeah, put it first and foremost in front of everybody's eyes, and then that should help.
I think that's like
Are you froze, Chris?
Well, I hope no.
Yeah,
Your camera's froze again,
your
mate.
camera's froze again. But continue your point, Chris. We'll work on your camera in a minute.
Yeah, well, like that was one thing that's always, I wouldn't say like confused as the right word. Like for me, it's like it's that taboo that was always sort of instained, like growing up. Like people would use the term gay as an insult to other people, like
They still do.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like I've noticed it a lot. Like, see, looking back when I was like growing up and all that kind of stuff, I can remember people like if you fell off your bike and you were like greeting or something like that, people was like, "Oh, fucking, oh, you're being a wee gay" and all that kind of stuff. And it was like it wasn't until like it was my own ignorance, and well, they aren't meaning it to kind of attack because because I'm not gay, so they can't be attacking people that are gay. But it wasn't until I was older and kind of had a wee bit more thought process going on where it was that kind of smack in the face of fuck that was, and me not saying it and was like enabling that.
Yeah.
And it was like it wasn't until I started doing a wee bit more like my own research and actually starting to look up these things where it's like, well, hold on, because we talked about something similar like 2 episodes ago when we were talking about up in Scotland or in Glasgow anyway. When I was growing up, we used to turn around and call people like, see somebody that was like disgusting or just grotty, like picking their nose and that, we would say, "Oh, you black bastard." That was it. Wasn't that was what it was stymied, but it wasn't until kind of later on when it kind of hit. It was like, for us, in the context that we were using it, that was our argument. It's like, oh, we weren't using it in that context, so it must be fine. And then it starts getting to the point where you're like, well, that isn't for me to determine. It isn't on me to determine what words mean certain things. It doesn't matter about the context and that. And it kind of hit, and growing up in that kind of situation where hearing the words and people using the words that for them it was they supposed to be feeling, but you're like, well, that was the kind of the harsh reality was the ignorance that came from it. And
yeah, so I'll jump back in there, mate. I think what you're building on is essentially like the area of what people use to insult people, and I think as long as we keep taking it as an insult, like using like literally using the word as an insult, it will still be received as an insult. So that's why I'm more like, let's just say it. My name's that because I am. I'm not trying to hide who I am to anybody anymore. Like, what's the point? And when I do meet new streamers, sometimes I'm just go. Sometimes they blatantly just go, right, I'm not saying the first part of your name, and then that for me is because they're scared of the word. They are absolutely scared of the word.
Yeah.
And they're at the point of where they've gone past trying to insult people, but they've recognised that that is an insult. And whenever they say it, and they're like, if they go, "Oh, gay, fuck off," they could have that clipped and then it used against them. So
Right.
I get why they wouldn't see it like outright. If they get to know me and know my new username, they just start to stick with the Mackem side of it, which is still absolutely fine. That's the whole point of it. But I want it to be abundantly clear that I'm comfortable with people seeing the full
Right.
part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all derives. And in terms of like childish insults, the two that bring to my mind is like, you've dropped your gear card.
Right.
Everybody
Yeah.
you've dropped your gear card, and you've got gum on the back of your shoe. I'm just going to do a nice visual demonstration. So you would go like that, and they go, ooh.
Yeah, I can remember that quite a lot as well.
And it's like that's again a side of gay culture that's been portrayed as negative. Yeah, the majority of gay in media, I'd say as a whole, not only just streaming, but like TV, cinema, music, is campness and
Fabulous.
absolutely fabulous. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, like that kind of thing. The main popular gay representatives have all been more feminine because that's easier to sell.
Right.
So I think that's why me doing this as a more straight acting widens that spectrum of people's perceptions of what a gay person should, or what a gay person or stereotype they've got built in their head, so I can smash that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because Zim makes a comment about upbringing, and Chris talked about the way he was upbringing. Back in the day when I was growing up, we used to say shit was gay all the time. Like we're like, oh, that's gay, right? But that it stemmed from the fact that it was stupid or it was just not cool, right? Which is like, oh, that's gay or whatever, or you're gay or whatever. But I never personally looked at anybody and said, well, Chris is gone again. I never looked at somebody and said, oh, well, you're gay, so you're a horrible person. I just be like, it's gay. You're being gay, whatever. But again, we've talked about it a couple weeks ago. Chris mentioned it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about words like the black bastard and the N word. I grew up in very socioeconomically depressed neighborhoods, primarily Latino, primarily black. So the N word with the A on the end was part of my verbiage. I grew up in that. I grew up in that area. I had friends who were African American. I had friends who were Latino, so they embraced me and their culture. Like I knew their grandmas. Like I ate collard greens and cornbread. Like so using the N word with the A was a sign of affection to my friends and I. Only as I got older did I not realize that my friends invited me into the culture, but yet I'm not part of that culture, so I don't need to use that word. So as I became more exposed to gay people and people of other orientations, I adapted my language to fit, because for me, language is about context, not necessarily the words themselves. George Carlin had a bit where he would say every racial slur he knew. And then he would follow it up with, why are you mad? It's just words. All I said was the words. So for me, words out of context are something that I try to make clear to my kids. Like, words themselves aren't inherently evil. It's the context and the use of the word that makes it evil or good.
100%. And I think the idea of using gay, racial slurs, even religious slurs, as a insult completely bastardizes the meaning behind it. And they're portrayed, like when they are using that kind of language, it deforms the word, and it's because that it's not just one person doing that, it's societal across the board that's done that. That's how it's impacted. Like if I all of us just suddenly just go to Chris, you Scottish person, like you fucking Scottish person, with the inflection of Scottish being bad, and then the rest of the English population, the Welsh, the Europeans, then the rest of the world, Scottish then becomes an insult. And there's nothing wrong about that. That social identifier. that's essentially what it is, right? Like when we're
Yeah.
calling somebody a certain name, it's a social identifier that we've got a stereotype that we want to negatively slate onto somebody else. And I think what I'm trying to do is, again, change it so that social norm isn't just a negative insult. I want to, one, portray myself as me on stream, and two, take away the hate behind the gay slur. But Twitch isn't about that at the moment, or wasn't about that when I switched across away from Mixer to it. And yeah, you get attacked. So yeah, it's how you deal with that at the end of the day, and what kind of approach you take to it, because words can get people to the point of no return in themselves, and the LGBTQ plus community in the UK has the second highest suicide rate behind men. Just like men. So obviously there's some LGBTQ plus men in there, but the next big social identifier of suicide rate across the UK is them in the LGBTQ plus community. And I think that is quite an alarming figure, because all it is social acceptance and loneliness.
It's an interesting thought that 20, 30 years ago, everybody was thought of as one orientation, or you had everybody in the family had that one uncle that you're like, oh, Uncle George is Uncle George, right? It wasn't out. Like nowadays things are out, and on the one hand, I'm super happy that things are out in the open and we are getting representation across media. You Anth mentioned representation of trying to widen the spectrum, because the only like gay characters that I know or have seen on the regular were like the fabulous characters, right? They're all like, I'm gay and I'm here, right? Or they were the gay best friend.
Yeah. But Will and Grace is a good example of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Will and Grace, or like RuPaul as a crossdresser. I'm not exactly sure if he is gay or not, but
no, like Ru is gay.
Okay, my girlfriend would know. I don't. She watches Drag Race all the time, and I'm like, cool, whatever. I'll watch it. I don't get invested in it, but like a lot of the representation that I've seen and my kids have seen is just like the super like fabulous representation, right? So when you talked about, I just want to widen the spectrum, I think that's great, because we do need, I think, across the board in media, whether it's comic books or movies or TV or streamers or whatever, to have a spectrum of representation, not only racial representation, but orientation representation. So you like you said, to be more straight presenting or whatever takes away, because for me, like, knowing somebody's gay, I'm fine with, but I have that they're fabulous because that's what I saw. Seeing you and your partner, I'd be like, my initial, from the way I grew up, would be like, how are you gay? You're like a dude, right? That would be my non-educated or non-exposed self. Be like, but you're like a regular dude. How are you gay? So having you widen that perspective, or and bringing that representation, I feel is really a good thing, because we don't see a lot of like the regular guy gay, right? Or the regular girl gay. We just see the amped up or the turned up versions of it. You know what I'm talking about?
I get what you mean, but that also stems from basically the I don't know how to put it in short words, but it's like the exhibitionism of the LGBT community. It's like you're putting a gay character on a TV show, like they would be a giraffe at a zoo. Like you're putting them on show for that. So that those characters, those fabulous characters, are really entertaining to watch, because that's naturally they're an outgoing, extroverted person. They're really entertaining. They can hold conversations really well. But that's not the only side of the community, and there's absolutely amazing people who are not overtly camp. And one of my personal favorite gay people took until his mid-50s to come out, and that was Stephen Fry.
Oh, nice.
Stephen Fry is not overtly camp, but he was massively funny. He's very intelligent, well known across the UK in media. He was in Blackadder in the 80s and 90s.
I love Stephen Fry.
Yeah, and him coming out was probably one of the biggest things for the community that there has been, because one, it completely, as a social norm, it goes, oh, who else? Who else could be having these struggles? Who could be having these kind of emotional fights with themselves because they can't be themselves to the public? So that's a big cultural shift, and I think the more people that we have in media and representation that are just happen to be gay, the better.
Right. What about you, Chris? What are you thinking?
No, like that. Like it's hard to kind of disagree with any of that, because it's like you said. It's almost as if the media, like it's the same way, like on the racial side, is that they always, it's as if they try and push this identity that, like, sometimes I'll watch TV programs and that, and it's almost as if they're using it as a look at us, look how amazing we are, that we are giving people of the LGBT community like this platform. Look how fantastic! It's almost as if it's a show for these media companies to use it. When, like, me growing up, like, even though these terms were used around me and it was never really thymied, so, my next door neighbours, they were a gay couple. Me growing up, I used to go next door with them, and we would, like, play with their dog and that. They used to take me. This is going to sound quite weird, no, in that way, but we used to go up to a graveyard with the dog to let the dog run about, and it got to the point where one of them, he owned it was like a car parts store, so he had a van, and he used to take like 5 or 6 years, like all my friends, in the back of the van up to this graveyard, and we'd go and play like hide and seek and chases and all that kind of stuff. And all the way through that childhood, like, it sounds crazy in my mind now, but I just always assumed it was just two best pals being roommates that had a house together, and that was it. It wasn't until later on, when, like, they were talking about like getting married and stuff like that, where it was a kind of thing. And I can always remember, because my mum always brought up this conversation where it was my gran said to my mum that she shouldn't let us go around with them because they're gay, and like they might like turn them, and it was that kind of way. Even my mum was like, well, that's not really how it works. Like, that's not how any of this works. And it was like the fact that growing up, that my attention was not on that they were gay. Like, that was like, it really doesn't bother me. Like, if you're a good person or a bad person, that's where I'll want you in my life, kind of thing. And it was like, again, like I said this to my mum as well. I think what the problem is a lot of people have these kind of things with older people, and it's like, oh, it's just a generation. You're like, oh, well, it doesn't make it right. Like, it's still wrong. And like you were saying, it was always, nobody wanted to talk about that they were gay when they were, and like you said, they weren't overtly camp. It wasn't. It was just like it was as if it was just two guys living together. It was as if they were out, like, with those
I think the word's
mannerisms.
gallivanting. I think the word's gallivanting.
Yeah, they weren't going about gallivanting around the town, kind of, I'm gay, look at me kind of thing. And I think that was where it kind of like first touched me, in that isn't the ideology of someone that's gay. It's not the fabulous and like camp and all that. It's like that's where it started touching on me of, well, how many other people, like, even in my friends, how many of my friends could be gay that are struggling with that aspect of their life? And it actually turned out that two of my best friends that I grew up through school and that, when they turned 16, came out to me and my other friends and that and said, by the way, we're gay. Well, no, as a couple, but they came out at this kind of similar times, and it was like, that's where it started thinking, like, I had no idea that was their struggles. And I think that's where it started ticking in my brain of, fuck, so many people they've been around that use those terms and you wouldn't have even thought. And that's where I sometimes wonder, like, how much more of a struggle must have it been for people that were gay but weren't visually gay as society deems as the whole point of being gay for some crazy reason. And that's where it kind of hurts me, is like, you start thinking, could I have done more? Could I have thinged? Because when I was growing up, it didn't seem that it was much. It was just banter. And that's where I struggle now with the whole kind of topic is, what can I say that is okay, and what would I say and it be bad? And I think that's where a lot of people sit on it, is like, what can we say that won't be taken as an offence?
Yeah. So I think culturally, I think we are starting to just change because of these things. These things are changing people's lives massively, and the cultural impact of communities, the gathering of communities is so much easier, better now. And I think it also polarizes to the other way. If you can't find your community, if you can't find your people, you're isolated, you're isolated, and you feel attacked pretty much every day, and that's not something that can be changed overnight. I think if we're being brutal, it's all around that, like, that secondary school kind of era where all of the overt anger and development and mental problems start to derive, because people get physically assaulted at school because of who they are. They get bullied, like just verbally or physically. They get socially isolated if they are nerdy, if they like a certain cartoon, if they don't play a certain video game, if they like a certain artist. Basically, the secondary school, I think that kind of mentality is prevalent quite a lot in later adulthood. I think once you get out of that era, you've got two types of people. You've got people who are open and willing to learn about themselves, learn about other people, and have an open mind. And you've got people who just like to fit everything into boxes, which I've just technically done there.
I mean, but you're doing it. You did it in a way as sort of educating it, so it's not bad.
Yeah. So it's more like, one, how do you have a conversation, and how do you find out how open somebody is to that level of discoverability to their fellow human? That's why I think me and my community that I'm trying to build, if you're gay, bi, whatever your religion is, like whatever your political stance is, as long as you're honest and who you are and you're not hating on other people, you're accepted in my community. If you start like saying, I hate this kind of person, I don't like that kind of person, I'll start to distance myself from you.
I hate
It's
Chris.
just as simple as that. Well, yeah, that's an individual. That's not a stereotype or a thing that you're doing. You can hate individuals.
Actually, it hates all Chris's.
But yeah, you see what I mean? You made an interesting comment a little bit ago that I want to swing back around. You said something about discoverability on Twitch. You put your name in there to help with the discoverability of people in your community, because before some things came about, some changes that were made to Twitch, you said it was like you couldn't find nobody unless they had it in their bio or whatever. Like, can you expand on that real quick?
Yeah. So discoverability on Twitch is no real masterpiece of a platform.
Right.
The discoverability is essentially the tags and keywords. So if you put in like apostrophes. Put in apostrophes. You put a key term in, you'll find either an individual or a bio that contains that phrase. It's down to how Amazon acquired Twitch when it was Justin TV. So it was just Justin TV, and it was built on relatively old now architecture. So the search terms are not as dynamic as what we have in Google, YouTube, those kind of platforms, because the algorithm in the background for those search terms is relatively primitive in technology speech. So the only way to find somebody is using those asterisks and finding them if they've put the word gay, if they've put LGBTQ plus, if they've put LGBTQIA plus, whatever you're trying to find, like in a community on Twitch. So if you're on Twitch, you're looking for a gaming community 99.5% of the time.
Right.
So they've got that interest in games, but also that they know that person is not going to instantly hate on potentially the non-taboo that should be being a gay person. That's why you would use that, and that's why prior to September there was a lot of, if you had one of those hate raids, you relatively had a smaller number of followers. You had one of those identifiers in your channel, and basically people who hated that community. And am I allowed to say it? The N word with an I. The Nazi community that somehow still exists.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah. They basically try to download a Excel spreadsheet of the database that is still freely available from Twitch. I don't know if you know that. You can download all access user data, put those search terms into your Excel spreadsheet, put a filter in, and then bombard that, add that to your list, and send out DDoS attacks and bot follows and hate raids. And before the changes in September, one account could create up to 150 accounts linked to one email. So one person could send you 150 hate messages in the space of 10 seconds. And if you're getting that much verbiage towards what you see as 150 different people just saying, go fuck yourself, you should die, all of these kind of horrible messages, just because you're gay, then yeah, that's what was happening. So Twitch have done a couple of things since the boycott on September 1st, which I did participate in. So
did I.
I was also, but
so I for that one day I live streamed on YouTube and had a fantastic experience of it. So the fact that you can just choose your platform as you want is a massive thing, and the fact that the small Twitch community managed to get between a 7 and 14% drop, depending on the time of day, on usage on the Twitch platform, helped drive that need for the Twitch dev team to create features or better broadcast what features were available to that community. Because some of those features that we were that these small communities were requesting were available, they were just well hidden in the platform. So sometimes it's about visibility and user training, but sometimes it is literally safeguarding the community. So so since September 1st, they've added tags which help it easier to find streamers, but they don't record that in the metadata now. It's only when you go live and you know the tags underneath your stream, that's where that information is. So you have to have that active live tag for somebody to find you, and you have to be live at the time, which makes discoverability a lot easier for those communities. So it's not only for the LGBTQ IA community, but it's also for racial groups as well.
Well, I find it interesting. You mentioned a couple things, and I'm gonna let Chris jump in. But like, one of the things I notice is, especially like younger, like streamers who haven't been streaming as long as like I have, or like you have, or whatever, they don't use tags. Like I always, when I started streaming, I immediately started using tags, and one of the tags that I always use is the LGBTQA plus one, because I live in a household of people who are not straight. So I want people to know that in my stream, if you're other orientated, you're welcome. As long as you're not a fucking dick bag, you're welcome. And if somebody's hating on you in my chat, they're getting banned 100%, no questions asked, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that you said is Twitch made stuff more visible, like the tags, and they, because it was well hidden. It is, and even now, like I've seen a couple of younger streamers, and I've talked to a couple of younger streamers, and they're like, "Well, what's a tag?" I think by bringing that stuff out, and like you said, user training is a great step. But I'm not sure that it's something that you should be able to tag your profile, I think. Like,
okay,
if you don't put it in your bio that you're gay or other orientated or whatever, the tag system should go a little farther. It should be for when you're not live as well. You should be able to tag like 2 or 3 things to your profile that on the Twitch website, like you say, when you do the search bar, it'll pull it up anyway. So I think the tag should be for offline use as well. I think that will help discoverability for smaller communities, whether it's orientation, racial, or interest. And then the other thing is hate raids. You mentioned hate raids, and Chris and I talked about it when we were talking about having you on. I saw what they were. I saw on Twitter and in the media about them, but I haven't experienced a hate raid. I've never been through that. So if you could you kind of elaborate what that is for like the listener or the viewer who might not know what a hate raid is?
Yeah, so it's essentially a small group of like a chat like this, potentially a podcast, potentially a Discord meeting, whatever. It's between like 3 and 5 people choosing accounts to attack. And it is normally teenagers, but it's also Nazis and stuff like that. And they just go to accounts. They people just trying to fuck around, basically trying to troll people. They go into people's chats and just send them a bombardment of horrible messages, telling them about their appearance, telling them about their sexuality, making death threats, telling them they know where they live, like basically things that if you said to somebody on the street, quite frankly, I would just punch them in the face.
Catch an ass whooping.
It's ass whooping kind of communication to somebody that is essentially a stranger. And don't get me wrong, it does happen just naturally in society in any ways. So you could have these kind of attacks, and people get mugged, people get robbed on the street every day by people trying to steal phones on mopeds, or the granny purse snatcher kind of thing. Like that happens. There is criminals everywhere, and essentially it is a criminal element of hate speech towards you that they've decided to use on this platform. And the safeguarding tools for that that traceability of that individual was just way too weak for what people expected. So it is anonymized hate, or was anonymized hate. So there is now that education piece around adding verification steps to people who can interact with your platform, with your channel. So you can do phone and email. So they have to have verified their email address, which you can create an email address in 5 minutes, to be fair, but you have to verify it. And that can be linked up. But they've had to spend a couple of minutes dedicating their time to create that one account to then come interact with your channel. If that person's done that 150 times and they still want to attack you, they can, but they have to manually do that. And I would just manually block each and every one of those. Whereas before it was that just sea of just crap. And it's much improved. It doesn't mean it's completely gone from the platform, and I don't think it ever will. But yeah,
there's fuckheads everywhere.
Yeah. And you can get that on YouTube, you can get that on Trovo, you can get that anywhere. But yeah.
Chris, you've been quiet for a while. Why don't you jump in and share some thoughts?
Well, one thing that I was wanting to touch on is the tag thing, because that's one part that always kind of had me swaying, is that putting the LGBTQA plus into a tag. I've seen like Sim has it in his streams, Docs has it in his streams and stuff like that, and I was always aware that it was like bringing it like it was like showing that this is a safe haven for anybody of these communities can come in. You're not going to get the hate. If somebody else comes in with that hate, we'll deal with them and that kind of stuff. But on the other fence, like there's a well-known Scottish actor, comedian, and streamer now called Limmy, and he put out a tweet. It must have been a good few months ago, and he was saying how he was now removing the LGBTQIA plus tag because he was seeing it as, because of the discoverability was so just shit from Twitch, he felt as if him having it in his tags, it was taken away from those communities of gay streamers and that, and it was like, what is the kind of, what side of it is it? Is it one of those ones that it is a form of, if everybody has it, it's going to kind of saturate the discoverability of those communities, or is it one of those ones that anybody that is wanting to show support, having it in, is the way that it should be?
So so there is multiple tags now, and initially before the September there was just that LGBTQIA tag. There was no way to like identify which part of the community is, but now they've got individual tags for each. They've got lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, asexual, and plus. Well, they don't have the plus, but
I think they have a
each one of those
binary too.
Yeah, so they have those individual tags. So you can have the LGBTQIA if somebody's just looking for that rainbow of community, but if they're looking for somebody specifically in that community, there's the extra tag that you can use, and one of those extra tags is ally, and that's what I've all that. The plus for me has always been inclusive of everybody across the globe, because that plus is allies, it's pan, it's yeah, there's a lot of subsectors of the communities as well. There's
yeah.
I'm not going to go into the full team rainbows, but I like to rather than there's two tags that you can use as Alphabet Mafia, and there's Team Rainbow. I prefer Team Rainbow because it's just like everybody sees the Team Rainbow and knows it's LGBTQIA plus, so that's why I say that. But use that ally tag if you're using that LGBTQIA tag. So then that person who is potentially gay or potentially lesbian and they want to see it, they can see both those tags to work out what you are. But yeah, it does. I don't think it detracts from the community. I think that LGBTQIA for me is essentially Team Rainbow or Alphabet Mafia.
Cool. Right. Okay. That puts it in a better, because it was just always. I never ever thought that it was using it and not being like gay or trans or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Would kind of pull away from that discoverability, as if like using it to try and get discoverability, even though like almost as if you're just hitching on that kind of cat. But if they have kind of changed it, it's
it was 100% a change that was needed, because it was perceived as that hightailing, that hijacking of a community by people who are not in that community. But if you add that extra ally tag, the people can see that the Team Rainbow community is available to join that, and also it's just put ally on your things now, and I think that is such a simple change that can have a huge impact on people feeling comfortable using the platform.
I didn't know the ally tag existed, so I'm gonna start adding that to my streams as well, because like Zim and Chris and I, we all, from what I know, we all have the LGBTQ plus tag on our streams because we want to be inclusive. We don't want to coattail like Chris said, but we also want to like send up like a bat signal and be like, hey, if you're different, you're welcome. So knowing
But-
that they have an ally tag is really dope now, because now I want to add that to all my streams as well.
Can I just flag that comment, mate? It's not different.
Yeah.
It's not different. It's not different to be gay. It's just who you are.
My bad. Sorry.
No. That's perfectly fine. That's like, again, that's that societal, that culture that you've learned in the past. But it's more, if you are like, what you're saying there is essentially overall positive. It's
right.
If you're in the Team Rainbow community, I'm just going to start saying that because it's easier to say than each
Right.
other. If you're in the Team Rainbow community, you're welcome here, and I think that essentially is what we all want. But also, I think it also sets aside that level of, that the two boxes I said when you leave high school or you leave comprehensive. It sets aside that it's a social identifier on this platform to say you're open minded. That's what I read from it. If you don't have that, it's not saying you're closed minded. It just means that you're not open to that level of discussion with potential strangers. Essentially, that's what most people on here are. Like, I think I've actually, like, of my what is it, 500 plus followers, I think I've actually met in person probably 20, and they're from like family, friends, and people from Sunderland and stuff like that. So like 80+% of 80+% of the people on my things I've never met face to face, and I haven't had a face to face conversation with them. So yeah.
I think that was where it was always for me, is like wanting to show support, but wanting to show support in the correct manner. It was like I didn't want to kind of, like, as I said, like kind of jump in as if like everybody look at me, like I'm like, you get it, like especially in like media and all that kind of stuff. It's always anybody that listens to this show, they know I fucking hate media.
Right.
But like it's always been that kind of thing. Like I've always wanted to have that learn. Like anybody that can teach me something, I'll talk. Like if it's going to make me a better person, it's going to make the community a better community, I'm all ears for it. And like you said, there's always been that taboo, and I think on some subconscious level, I've always felt like that within me as well, is that I have this, I want to be able to learn, I want to know what to say, what not to say, how to support, how not to support, because there is a lot of things that people do to show support, but it's detrimental to the communities that they're trying to support. And it's like, I want to be able to kind of spark that conversation of, people are allowed to tell you, by the way, what you're saying or doing isn't helping, and not be aggressive back as if, well, I'm trying to be nice. Like, if you're trying to be nice, it would be a case of, I'm sorry, can you explain how I can become a better person and be able to show them better support that you need? It's like what support do you as a community need from everybody else to try and, like, how can we help make it a more inclusive community, not just on Twitch or YouTube, but as a societal system?
I think, really, really good point. But it's trying to identify those social norms and the social media platform norms, and trying to get them aligned. I don't know if you use TikTok a lot or Twitter a lot, but the feel of using those communities, or like using those platforms to reach out to communities. I mean, I don't know if you get the same vibe. I feel like the gay community on TikTok is a lot more accepting than it is on Twitter, because of just how how powerful it is, or how simple it is to use, like for the like to say like I support this, whereas the Twitter, like a like is basically saying to everybody else in the world that you agree with that, not you disagree, not that you support. It's just I like that, I'm 100% behind that. And if it's an opinion, like I don't know if you're aware, but there's a group called LGB, and they take out the T because they don't like transgender.
Aww.
So there is people in the LGBT community, the Team Rainbow, that still try to ostracize people in the wider Team Rainbow, and it's that self-hatred that we're trying to eradicate. There's a prime example in Manchester earlier this year. A member of this LGB group tried to basically heckle at a RuPaul Drag Race and a transgender float, and he got kicked out of the event because the event's about accepting Team Rainbow, not just a section of Team Rainbow. And I think that is essentially it's trying to marry up what is socially acceptable and what's actually like the right thing to do. Hopefully that made sense.
No,
it does. It's made me want to. It's made me want to go away and kind of think even more about it, to kind of like, because like that's another kind of like subsection that I didn't even know, that like when you see when you're seeing like the media coverage and all that kind of stuff, it's just like the Team Rainbow, everybody's inclusive. You don't like, I had never actually, it didn't even dawn on me that there would be subsections of even that community that had been raised being excluded from so much, but still feel that they have to exclude another. Like that just completely baffles me. But
another fun fact about the acronym as well, and while we're on the subject, and you can read into it. L, so it goes LGBT, right? Initially, it was GLBT because gay men was seen as the societally as the biggest group and the most hated on, but the lesbians in Stonewall, in the riots in the late 60s, early 70s, basically the whole Pride March movement, they did a lot more to impact the change towards US civil rights movements. So the gay community, the gay men just went, we want to put L first. We want to put lesbians first, so we can have that societal acceptance of lesbians, gays, and it's not the size of the community or which community you're in. It was just that little appreciation from within the Team Rainbow to say, let's start with lesbians. Let's move it through, and I think that kind of acceptance across the board is really respectable, and I think.
Yeah, no, that's like to go from those parts of the community, and then like again that was a piece of knowledge that when I was doing the kind of research for this episode, there was so much, because there was like a news, a BBC story from like, I think it was like 2015, and it was like news stories you probably wouldn't have learned, or history of the LGBT that you wouldn't have learned, and there was so much in it where it was like, and that included, it was just, those are little things that don't seem to make it, if that makes sense. Like it's as if like they're not important enough to, like, it doesn't give them the right rhetoric as to what they're trying to push. And like there was so many little stories, like one of the ones that I'd seen that I did want to kind of think, it was the heading was 90-year-old lesbian expelled Air Force One finally gets their honourable discharge. And it was like back in, like, I think it was 1955. The story had said she ended up going to like a lesbian bar, and she was followed in by like
the military police.
Yeah, like they finally did, and then they turned around and said, we won't tell your family, we won't out you to everybody else, but you need to leave. And they put her out as like, it was like undesirable. They put on a record, so she didn't get severance pay, she didn't get anything, she was just removed. And then it was like 2018, I think, that she finally got the letter from the US military to say that she'd been changed to honourable discharge. And that was like, what, 50, 60 years after what had happened. And it's like on one side you're like, that's such an amazing positive story that came out in the last 4 years, but then it makes you kind of go, but for the last 50, she was having to live with that. She served her country, but because of who she liked, she wasn't accepted. And you're like, well, it's like she didn't do any less than what a straight man was doing in the army. So, like, those are the little things. But it's just like, that's a story that I had never ever heard of. It never came out kind of in the public for me anyway. And it's like, and the more and more that I dived into it, there was like so many of those little stories where you're like, but the struggle that, like, you start seeing just how fucked the struggle was, and it's just like, even like, I've never made comments or judged anybody in like that for their sexual orientation. As I said, my two best friends came out to me when they were 16. And like, I knew it was a big thing. Like, even like one of my best mate, when one came out and told his dad, and his dad just disowned him. He's not spoke to his dad in the last like 20 years. And my other best friend, he only told his mum because his dad would probably have done the same thing. And his mum left the room and came back in 10 minutes later and said, everything's going to be okay. I've got you an appointment with the doctor. And like, to him, he was just so like startled that was the immediate reaction. It's like, there's something wrong with you. I'll go you an appointment with the doctor. And like, those were like the two stories that I'd kind of grew up over the last like 15 years of like the struggle and that kind of stuff. But just doing this, and I recommend to everybody, do research on this topic, because the more and more I was reading, the more and more like gut wrenching, like,
so
just
more gut
sadness
wrenching
and hatred to like, not even just myself, but to the thought that I was so ignorant to everything that was going on around me, that I was just like, well, I'm not being like that, so like they're safe with me. But one good person doesn't make up for the 30,000 assholes out there that are shitting on somebody just because of their race, sexuality, or anything like that. And
family side of the whole coming out thing is one thing. It's bespoke to how their parents are. Again, those two boxes. If the parents close-minded and don't want their kid to be gay, they will just kick them out. I've had friends who were kicked out of the house. I've had friends that were set upon by their family, so physically assaulted, kicked out of the house, basically kicked out of the city because they're gay. And it's kind of sad, but it's real. It's still happening, and I think the more we talk about it, the more likelihood something might change, and that's what I'm trying to drive for. And it's not just a UK problem. It's not just a US problem. It's global. A serious consideration that you might not ever have is which countries you can go to, or which countries you can fly to go on holiday. I love Australia, but I have to potentially fly through 3 countries that are where it's illegal to be gay, and I could be imprisoned for up to 35 years just for being me. Luckily, I'm just passing through the airport, and it's like an hour or two stop. But if they wanted to, their police could come up to me and go, "We don't want you here. Here's a prison."
Wasn't there a couple social media influencers that were in like Bora Bora or Fiji or something, and they're openly gay, and they're like, "Oh, the people here love us, blah 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 blah," and then the people of that country are like, "Dude, it's not that cool to be gay here." Like, they're telling you a complete lie.
Yeah. A prime example. So I've been on holiday to Singapore. Love the place, but it's still it's a Commonwealth country, so you're not going to serve too much time, but you still serve time for being gay. I think it's like 2 years, but the fact that these countries still exist, there's 11 countries you can still die for just being gay, and 5 of them are still actively putting the death penalty on people.
That's bullshit.
3 of which are in Africa. 1 is in the Caribbean, and 1 is in Asia. So these are serious considerations when we're just doing normal things like picking a holiday. And it's. I think as long as you're aware of these kind of arching issues and you're open to have a discussion about it, I think that is huge strides towards that.
Right.
So yeah, there's other stories about like coming out that I've got plenty of stories of people coming out because obviously I know lots of gay people and gay friends and what have you. So every story is completely different. But I think once some people decide never to come out as well, and I think that is ultimately one of the saddest things. You've never lived your truest life.
Yeah.
You've never been comfortable enough with the society that you've lived in to just be like go out, walk down the street and just exist like the way you think freedom should work. But that's sadly not the case. A really famous person that never came out posthumously. So in her final will and testament, she basically allowed her life partner, her female life partner, to write memoirs about what they've gone through. It happens to be a US celebrity, a lady called Sally Ride.
Yep.
Do you know who she is?
I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know them like familiarity wise.
She's the first female US astronaut. She was
well.
she was a lesbian, and she was never out during her entire life. She was in the public face, and she always had a I think it was a cousin that was close by her, like not basically saying they're husband and wife, but like giving that public portrayal of she's got a male partner. And I think that's kind of again that it's that media and that social acceptance of people, and I think we're coming towards a huge cultural shift where it's more acceptable socially just to exist, and I think people are openly challenging hate and stupidity with people in public. You've got the Karen movement. Just record a Karen and just say you're being stupid. That seems to work. That seems to work. But there's still those people with their fixed mindset saying this bothers me and I'm telling you about it. And I think, if you want, I can relate that straight back to Twitch. But essentially, it's these people are so strongly determined in the way they're thinking in that moment that they don't care how it impacts people. They don't care how it hits and how the repercussions of it long term. And again, most of this time it is just words, but words have meaning, right? The words are intended to do something.
It's interesting, and I kind of want to switch it. I want to switch gears a little bit, but I like how we follow where the conversation goes. Just to kind of give you a break because you're like not the entire community, and I don't want to like.
Oh yeah, I'm saying like I'm one individual in the gay community. I can't speak for everybody across our community, and I think
I don't want you to have to be like gay 2 hours straight. So I kind of want to like take a break, and we'll circle back around because I have some other questions. But you're more than just gay. You're a streamer. You're a content creator. So in that vein, we've talked about discoverability for communities and whatnot. But what about you? What about the content you make? What do you like to stream? What's sort of your vibe and what you do? What is Gay Mackem? Like what is it?
Oh god, that is it. Yeah, that is a fantastic question. So the games I mainly stream are like first person shooters, battle royales. So why? Because I'm good at them. Because I'm really good at them, and I'm a competitive person, so I've always been like really interested in football or soccer, as an American would put it. I've played it up until I broke my arm. For those of you viewing,
a little bit.
I've got a shorter arm because I snapped it in a bad tackle about 2 years ago, and I haven't played ever since. But I've always had that competitive nature. I always want to win. So that's why I like first-person shooters. I do play. I've started to recently play Forza and other like platformers.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you say the FPS, that's him. He's away.
I was like, yeah,
he's left the room.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I do understand.
Go ahead.
Like just the FPS and that kind of stuff, because like obviously I sit in your streams quite a lot. Like I'm no as active in chat, but I think, and it's one thing that I have always noticed is the likes of like the FPS and that kind of stuff is. It is the competitive and all that kind of and it's one aspect that I've never been able to get into. Like I've tried playing Apex and all that kind of stuff, and I've made a kind of running joke about Apex and getting my first win and getting a first kill and that kind and that, and it's like, what makes the competitiveness for you that I don't quite see, because I've played football, I've coached football, I've been brought up in that competitive atmosphere.
I've got a quick question, and it might sound really weird. Are you an only child?
No.
Oh,
I've got an older brother and a younger sister.
Oh, same. So I would have thought you would have competed for like attention and stuff like that going up.
At a very early age, I just went, do you know what? I'm invisible. I'm just going to play myself.
I was going to say Chris has got good parents, but I would have been wrong.
I think we've took that as the polar opposite. So I've always tried to match or like better my brother in just growing up for that attention, because whatever my brother got, that's the benchmark I've got to hit, and I think that's something you get when you're a kid. It's not something you like want to do. It's just something that naturally came from me. I think you've just went, doesn't matter what they do, I'm me. And I think you've done that a lot earlier. I think I done that when I was like 14, 15, but obviously the rest of the liking football, liking shooting games, and all of that had already been inbuilt. But if you want to talk about like history of games, I used to love platformers like Sonic, Pandemonium. Used to love Metal Gear Solid. So the first person stories, I love the stories, but I don't think they translate well in streaming, because the stories are very linear, and once you've watched one streamer do it, you've watched every streamer do it, essentially. So that's why when I'm streaming like Assassin's Creed or something like that, because they branch out, the role-playing games, they branch out. The story's the same, but like what I do in them is slightly different. I'll tend to focus towards those kind of story games rather than like The Last of Us or what's it called? Uncharted. Basically, PS God of War. Like the story for everybody is exactly the same. It's just how they beat the boss that's essentially different. Not how they, not what kind of characters they interact with, what kind of journey they take on. So I do play role playing games. It's just very rare, and I do understand that.
That does make actually a lot more sense. That I just, like my perception of like Apex, Warzone, Fortnite, those kind of games was just like it was kind of just an unknown to me of why somebody would want to put so much time into that kind of thing, just because it's not in a kind of judgmental. It was just because it didn't interest me. I never really put much thought into why it would interest other people. It wasn't until I started like with Bill Bob and Titan and stuff like that, where I was playing like just casually, and I've started kind of getting that. Like it was the same way when I started streaming. I started streaming because it was to give me time from my lifestyle to play games that I've been wanting to play for years and just never had the time. That was why like I've been playing kind of like the story driven ones and all that kind of stuff. But Dox was the first one that said, you say no that you're streaming for that, but as soon as you start seeing the numbers, you'll start getting that little bit competitive of what can I do next to kind of push my numbers up further in that. And that has kind of effectively happened, where every now and again I'm sitting there going, oh, I had a really good stream that one, I got good numbers, good thingies and that. And it's starting to relate into the likes of like, I play Warzone off stream like my brother, and I like to say that I'm pretty good at Warzone. Apex is a different one, but like in the last couple of times that I've been playing it with like Bill Bob and Titan, now that I'm starting to get those numbers and that damage count and that, it is starting to creep in. It's, oh, hold on,
Yeah.
if I just add in, maybe if I play that extra hour of the night, I might start be able to, and I'm now starting to understand that kind of, that side of the drive of, I could be fucking good at this game and
Yeah.
shit on everybody.
Yeah, it's that. I think that's the innate like human nature of feeling like you can do better. But what I want to interact with what you said about the like the current kind of games that you're playing and you're seeing the audience and stuff like that. With those kind of like linear story games, I find that the horror community has like a huge backing behind it. So linear horror stories, because they're not there for the story. They're there for the streamer's interaction with that story.
Yep.
So the focus should be on the streamer, not the game player. Whereas potentially the more competitive games, because the objective is essentially the same. Everybody going into an Apex game, everybody going into a Warzone game, is to win. Essentially, like they want to get as many kills as they can, and they want to win. Like there's no real comprehensive understanding of what needs to be done. A game like Zelda, it's puzzle solving, and sometimes people like to watch how long it takes people to like fix a puzzle that they've done really, really quickly. So these games have these communities because people are just intrigued of how they've interacted with it. And I think that's what the fantastic nature of Twitch allows. If you're more competitive focused, you're going to focus more on a battle royale. But if you're more like intrigued on puzzle based, you're going to like go to basically most Nintendo games. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think the platform is fantastic for allowing these communities to find each other. It's just if they had better architecture in the background to help us find each other and promote potentially people that they haven't saw more, I think that's where we're going. And I think if you use YouTube a lot, it's the thumbnail game, right? Like the title of the video doesn't really matter because it blocks out after about 20 characters and then it gets ... So your first like 2 words of your YouTube video title is really important, but the most important thing is that picture. Is that picture intriguing? And you'll see a lot of them where they're just like mind blown because because of the nature of the audience that's on there. Personally, with my YouTube, I do the football stuff. I do because I'm interested in football. It's not for the audience, and it's separating yourself on these platforms to make sure that you're getting the best out of them for you, not the other way around.
It's interesting that you make that comment about getting the most out of the platform for you. And Chris made a comment like I mentioned numbers. And I mentioned numbers early on because I wanted to warn Chris about not focusing on the numbers. Because a lot of times streamers or content creators will focus on the analytics and then they tend to live and die by the analytics. And they forget that what the people are there for is your passion, your interest, your vibe, not your analytics. Right?
Oh yeah.
So like when I stream something, there's always in the back of my mind, I want to see how this performs to make sure it's healthy for the channel, because I don't actively want to stream anything that's going to detrimentally affect the channel. But the main focus for me is, am I going to have fun with it? Am I going to enjoy it? Is my community going to enjoy watching me do it? But anybody in our industry, whether it's a full-time job for like me, like it's the only job I have right now, or if it's like a side hustle or whatever, a major pitfall is analytics, but it's also the only way to understand how you're going to grow. Do you feel as a creator that like you've learned how to avoid that pitfall or fall in that pitfall before?
Absolutely. And I think it's having I think there's I work for a tech company and we use a term called the growth mindset, which is essentially that openness towards questioning rather than just accepting what's there. So if I just accepted what's there, I would never have done this talk show because that's not my normal content. Do you get what I mean? So it's it's more, I'm open to having these kind of conversations. I'm open to learning more about you two, about what the podcast kind of life's about. Um, Having that willingness to change and to learn about other stuff is inherently beneficial, not only to you and your mental health, but to potentially your community that you're potentially growing. And you never know how what you say and what you do could impact somebody. And I think that for me is what I'm here for. I'm not here to get like 2 million views or whatever or make money from it. I'm here to learn about other people, learn about their lives, and expand my personal just world experience, because I don't know what it's like where you live. I don't know what it's like where Chrissy lives. I don't know what it's like where some people in my chat live. So you got Turban Legends in the chat at the moment who is in India. You got Boys and Blues in Manchester. You've got Soph, which she's somewhere down south in uni. And obviously, oh, sorry, Red Fox TTV. She says hi to a fellow Scots person.
Nice.
Like I would never have met these people without the platform, and I think the more I can expand and learn about the world I'm living in, the more I can enjoy it. And that's essentially what I'm doing Twitch for. That's what I'm doing my content for. I enjoy football. I enjoy gaming. I enjoy meeting people. That's it.
Yeah.
Real
I
quickly,
think that's.
Go ahead, Chris.
But I was just going to kind of think. I think that's also like that's one of the reasons why I enjoy and funnily feel safe in like your community, because
Mhm.
I can sit, like, I don't have to chat, but I can just sit and be doing work or doing something with you on the background and just have that kind of calmness where it's
Mhm.
like, again, everybody's just, it doesn't matter what part of the world, it's just like, I've never once come into your stream, and even if I do say something in chat, it's always that kind of thing where listening to you kind of interact with everybody else that comes in.
Mhm.
You have that everybody's from somewhere else, and it's always you trying to kind of learn and develop not necessarily personal relationships, but that sort of streamer chatter relationship where you want to know where they're from and what they're about, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I feel happy within like your community and that, and it's one of the things where I'm really really glad that through Monster, and like again we always touch on how like me coming into Twitch, it's just been a kind of domino effect of me meeting so
Mhm.
many amazing people,
Yeah.
and that I have a similar kind of thing of everybody's got a story, and I want to hear everybody's story
Yeah.
because the differences spread throughout. Like in like Zim's chat, Kai comes in who is from Indonesia
Singapore.
and Singapore. Sorry, and every time he comes in, we always have that conversation on. For Zim, it's fucking 9 o'clock in the evening. For me, it's 6 or 3 a.m.
Mhm.
And Kai's getting up, getting his breakfast, and going out to work.
Yeah.
And just having that difference in culture, just it always just amazes me just how wide like that. And that's one thing that I'm happy with Twitch, is just how wide the reach is to bring these people to a community. And I think it also kind of touches on how Twitch having a better that discoverability of finding certain communities, like I had a comment on Tuesday. I was playing that Plague's Tale Innocence. I've been wanting to play it since it came out,
It looked good.
and it was one of the chaps that came in through one of the raids, and he messaged me later on in the evening, and he was oh, it was really really nice being in a thing. So your commentary in the game was just hilarious, and I've
Mhm.
noticed that throughout, where it's like you said, like in the horror genre, it's more the streamer's reaction and interaction to the games as
Yeah.
opposed to playing like the story games and that like you saying it has kind of just reiterated that. Well, that is where I'm kind of thinking on it, is that my commentary is what I've got as a streamer going for me. It's not necessarily the content of what games I play, but it's the interaction that I have. I mean, granted, I just go around calling everybody a cunt in games, which apparently is a great fucking thing. Like, it's such a taboo word, and like especially in America. But like, apparently that's what make that and making me scared shitless of a fucking quack. But that's where my community seems to be going, and that's kind of just made it more affirmative of like that is essentially what my content is. It's me and my commentary throughout a game, because I know I'm shit at games. Like, I don't have that sort of mindset of being able to play games, because even though I've always played games, I've not always played games. So
okay. Like, you've not been
yeah,
it's not been
like
your key thing.
Yeah, so it's like I've played like Call of Duty. I'll maybe play Call of Duty with my brother for 2 hours on a Saturday, but the rest of the time I was working or anything like that. When I was younger, we used to play not a lot, because when I was younger, it was still in the time where people went outside and played rather than sat in front of a computer. Like, my nephew sits most of his time sitting on his Xbox or a tablet, which just drives me fucking mental, because he's like 8 and it's like, go outside and play and get dirty.
But no one's outside.
And do things. But like, no, I'm trying to. It's almost as if I'm trying to kind of make up for lost time. I have to play all the games that I've wanted to play and thing me. But it's also, I just enjoyed playing games with other people, like being able to kind of just chat away to other people and laugh at a game and make stupid comments and that. And I think that's why a lot of my streams I enjoy streaming with other people and like playing like Phasmophobia, playing Sea of Thieves and stuff like that. But playing those games where it's just me, like playing Alien Isolation, and I just spent the entire game ripping the arse out of every fucking character that I came across. And then the same in this Plague's Tale. Like, the amount of times I was screaming at this 5-year-old child that his parents were dead and to get out of the fucking thing. And it's like, I wouldn't get away with that in real life, like turning to anybody at 5 and saying, your man dad got their heads cut off, fuck up. But this kind of platform, it's like, it's just comedy. Like, it's not really like, it's what I say is not necessarily how I feel. It's just in that instance, it's like the comedic routine. And
okay.
It's like, and then I jump into other communities, like say yourselves or like Monsters, who's like for the last few while it's been Dead by Daylight, and then you go into like Titans and that. But at the same time, like you were saying, it also affirms that you were saying, like when you play Apex or anybody plays Apex, because everybody's in the same boat and they want to win, you can go into multiple streams, and it does feel as if it's a different stream, even though everybody's playing the same game. Which again is just fucking mental to me. That, like, it's another great point that I didn't actually think about, and then you go, well, it makes so much fucking sense, and I'm going to have to just sit and dwell on that and try and figure out why the fuck I didn't realise that.
Yeah, why don't you jump in there, Anthony? You look like you had something you wanted to say.
I was gonna suggest that you jumped in soon, because I've noticed you've been a little bit quiet. But the whole point of the communities that are available to you on Twitch, for me, is if you're a streamer, you're essentially saying, I want to build a community. There's other channels, there's other platforms, there's other content creators there, but they're not quite hitting my niche. If they were hitting your niche, you would just go to that stream and their friends and their streams in and out. So you're saying, I want to become the perfect community for me, and if you're in my community, I want to listen to your community. And this bubble, this like ever-ending bubble of who you interact with, just gets bigger and bigger. Like, the amount of people. If you asked me in April, I would have had about 100 people to potentially forward you on to and raid and what have you. But now I've got that 500 people that could potentially go forward to you, and it's like my mind, that the growth of your knowledge and community is exponential. It's obviously it's limited to the how many people are on Twitch, but the fact that I can learn so many more people's lives and stories, and how what makes them tick, what I like about them, what I don't like about them. That for me is fascinating, and I don't think I would do that out in the street. Because out in the street, I've got an objective to do. I'm going to work. I'm coming back. If I'm out on the street on a day out, it's because I want to go for a walk and I want to relax. I don't want to meet other people. So, like, doing the amount of interactions on a social platform just expedites that connectivity to the world for me. Do you have thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talk about a lot, Chris and I especially, is we've talked about the apparent death of community in person, because the way the world has sort of drifted towards technology more. And on one hand, this has brought a ton of people together, but on another hand, it seems like a lot of the stuff that we grew up as kids playing outside, block parties, trick-or-treating till midnight, has sort of gone by the wayside. So for me, the way I look at Twitch as a community is, and I've done this when I started, I look at Twitch and my channel as sort of like, because I grew up in bar culture, my channel is my bar, right?
Yeah.
When you come into my bar or stop by my channel, I'm the bartender. It's my job to... Go ahead.
Do you know the name of my community?
What's that?
The Gay Bar.
The Gay Bar. Nice. Excellent. So, yeah, for me...
I get your vibes on it.
Yeah, I look at my channel as sort of like the local bar. I'm the bartender. What I'm doing on stream is the drinks that you're being served, essentially, right? If I'm playing like an indie title or a AAA, or I'm doing a collab or whatever, that's the special of the night. That's what everybody's drinking. That's what we're serving. During that time, it is my job to be entertaining, affable, relatable, open, and also focused on what I'm doing. And once I do that, if I do it well enough, I would hope that you would either follow, sub, drop a tip, whatever, be active in chat, feel safe, feel comfortable, so that when my bar closes and I give you last call, I can then send it down to the Gay Bar with Gay, or I can send it over to the Scottish idiot Chris, or whatever. Because my goal is to be able to just send my crew and my people and the people I have fun with to someone else's bar, so that they can continue to have fun and spread that vibe, or that chaos, or that creativity. Yeah, because Twitch to me is a digital pub crawl, and I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but because I was a bartender and I've been a bouncer and I've been a number of different careers and a number of different jobs, the most relatable thing and the most analogous thing for me for Twitch is you're at Dox's bar, and once last call is called, keep the party going. Go over to Gay's, go over to Chris's, go over to Monsters, go over to Zim's, and that's sort of my approach to building that community that we talked about. Because if I can build out a community where we keep the party going, I've done my job. So that when my crew goes to your bar, your crew will come over to my bar and go, well, Gay, we know Gay's vibe, but Gay's going to send us over to Dox, and we know what to expect. Dox is intense. Dox is kind of out there. Dox is a little wild. Dox is crazy. Dox is a little more up and down. You don't know if he's going to whip out a bad voice accent, or he's going to crack a poor joke, or he's going to call someone a fuckboy or whatever. But it's all under the auspice of you're safe and we're having fun. Because my friends, I insult the shit out of them. I bust their chops. I call them dickheads. You know, my kids, like, I'm always busting their chops, because that's a term of affect. That's the way I show affection, is if I'm not insulting you and harassing you and giving you a hard time and just doing what I can to make you laugh, I don't like you. So knowing that, when you come into my bar, I'm gonna look at your name and be like, oh, da da da, welcome to the show. And if you're interacting in chat, I'm gonna give you a nickname, or I'm gonna be like, hey, and if you say something hilarious or you make an asinine comment, I'll be like, what, whatever, we're cool with it, because I want that sort of camaraderie that you find when you're totally comfortable with somebody. That doesn't mean we're best friends. There is a bar between us. Like, I'm the bartender, but I'm going to know your name. I'm going to know your drink. I'm going to know your story, and I'm going to give you shit for it because I like you. Yeah. If I don't like you, I'm not going to interact with you. And if I don't like you, I'm not going to send you over to the gay bar or Chris's bar or Zim's bar. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I absolutely do. And I think the feature that Twitch has above every other platform is that pass it on, that pass it on feature. If I think Twitch would be dead if it didn't have the raids, 100%, because YouTube is essentially the next go-to, and if YouTube had raids, the market would just dive towards that, because everybody's essentially getting their channel viewed potentially at any point by a lot more people. And I think if that's what your goal is, if that's your competitive nature to get more views, then YouTube's a bigger platform. It makes more sense. But I think with the raid feature on Twitch and that being its USP at the moment, I think that being able to send your community to your friends, your the people who you follow, or potentially somebody new. Let's try out a new vibe. Let's see who this is. Let's find out about them.
Do you
I think
do
Monster
that?
says it a lot. Yeah. So
do you bottom surf? I hate to use that as a term, but like
bottom surf.
Like when you go to find somebody to raid, if none of your guys are on or none of your girls are on, do you when you raid, do you like go raid somebody, or do you scroll to the bottom and raid? Because that's what I do.
I use the tags, and surprisingly enough, the tags, the gay tags, the LGBTQ tags, the bottom surf on that is not very big. So if you use the gay tag right now, there'll be about 50 channels, and you can just pick the ones from that. So the gay community is essentially a huge potential niche in Twitch right now. So yes, I do bottom surf essentially, but
look for people who don't have a lot of views that you want to try and help them.
Yeah, I would never rate somebody with over 200 views, because one, I don't feel that the platform enforces that kind of rate. It's just, another person send their stuff to me. That's the way that feels, because of how many times that's happened. Like, I've seen a couple of people raid bigger streamers, and they just go thanks, and then that's it. Nothing else happens. Nothing's like, what? Tell me about the person who's raided you's community. Tell me about you as new followers and stuff like that. It's just, I'm more important. Like, the streamer feels like, or that gives off the vibe that they're the most important thing in the world, and that turns people off. So there's 3 criteria if I'm looking for somebody new. 1, they don't have followers only mode on. I do get it with bigger streamers, followers only mode's a thing, but if somebody was coming into mine now, I've got 6 viewers. Followers only mode just doesn't make sense. It does if I've just been hate rated, and I'll explain I've been hate rated, but that's a separate thing. So they have a webcam, so you can see who they are and how they are actually interacting with their chat. They have the gay tag or an LGBT tag, because that's a nice, easy identifier. I know everybody in my community might, 99% of the chance of the time, will be accepted in there for just being who they are, and not instantly get bombarded with hate. And those are the three main things. It's the ratio of doing people you already follow and you trust to the new ones. And I think I like to do, because I stream every day, I think I like to do maybe 3 or 4 to new people per week, but the rest are all to people I already follow and know.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, that's kind of a similar thing. Like, when I'm, like, if I've got, like, a certain number of viewers that it kind of makes sense to raid, like, my first thing is kind of like, I'll tend to, like, find someone that's playing, like, the same game that I was playing or anything like that. But at the same time, I also try and find somebody that's playing the same game that is further behind than me, because I don't want to send my community to somebody playing the game that I'm playing but are ahead and skipping through, because like, again, there might be some people that have never seen a playthrough and you don't want to start sending them where they're missing out bits like that. But it's still one of the ones where it's like you said, you go into like bigger communities and it is kind of like a passing, oh, like, okay, like it's just a drop in the ocean kind of thing, which is shite, because it's like, for a lot of smaller like streamers and that, it's like it's a big thing going into somebody that's got a lot of viewers, because like hi, here's my community, like this is what I have built, and then
especially if they're new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the best person I guess I've done that with. So they had like 60 viewers at the time, and I had maybe 8, and I rated a chap called Boss, BA. I can't remember how you spell it, but it's Boss.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
spelled
I think
so
I actually even follow him.
yeah. So I rated Boss, and I think he's got an absolutely wonderful vibe. But I would have never have done that if I didn't do those like basic parameter checks. He had the LGBTQ plus tag on. He had a webcam on, and he wasn't in followers only mode. And I think me having those, the only reason I have those things on is because when I have rated those communities, everybody that's went in and was actively chatting was ignored. Like, there's nothing worse than going into a stream and like, I know sometimes you're in a first person shooter or an Apex and you're like focused on the game, but like at the end of the game, they say the chat and just ignore it and go back to the game. And it's like, yeah, this person doesn't care enough. They don't care enough about people. It's all about their self ego. And I think my community is about making people feel comfortable and accepted. They could be in their bar, they could be in your bar and sit in the background, but they need to be accepted and welcomed there. That's essentially
100%.
it.
Yeah.
And if they've took the bravery and walked up to the bar and ordered something, they need to be chatted with.
100%. 100%.
Boss.
Yeah.
You meet Boss. When I rated him, I know him from DVD. Once I rated him, yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
I think we've all
that's...
rated you a Boss at some point as well.
Oh, definitely. Like, I think that's like I think it was through Monster that I kind of met him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, like I tend to be, I'm like the background person. I like to just be in the room. Like, it's always been my thing. Like, I've got like ADHD and like a little bit of anxiety, and it has always been like that kind of. I might not always go, but I still like to be invited. Like, let me come and just kind of lurk in the background. I don't want to really be in the attention, but I still want to be around. I still want to be there and having fun. So like that, I prefer going into streams like you said, like with communities where it's just like the focus isn't that it's inclusive to like you said, like going and finding like the tags with like gay or Team Rainbow or anything like that, but it's just being inclusive to everybody. Like, everybody's welcome, and I think that's the feel that I want to get, and that's the feel that I get in like your community and Monsters community and Docs community, and that is just that, yeah, we're accepting of those communities, but it's that, like you said, that plus it encompasses everyone that's like open-minded and smart. like just people that just want to just have fun, and just like we're all the same. Like, we're all gamers, we're streamers, we're humans, we're just fucking vibing. And like that is like that like this conversation, it has kind of made me kind of think on a lot of things, where it's kind of went, you know what, that is actually a better way to do it. Like, for me, my thing was somebody that's playing the same game, somebody that if I click on their chat and I'll usually click on their chat for like a minute or so and just try and catch the vibe that's going on, because like with your parameters, I would never have met like Haba, because Haba doesn't use a webcam.
Yeah.
And Haba has turned into like on a really good internet friend. So like I would
Yeah,
never have met Haba in that sense, but at the same time, I can. It also falls
it was
under
more just it's more just around the past experiences that you've had. Like I've rated
yeah,
people with no webcam on before. I've rated 3 or 4 people, and every one of them's just ignored other people. And I think if I feel like the community I'm sending across is likely to be ignored,
yeah,
then I'm not going to. It's added to that parameter. I could take that parameter off whenever I want. I could rate somebody without a webcam on.
Mm.
yeah,
I just feel like I have to know them. So I think I'd already be following them before I do that,
yeah,
rather than
yeah.
discover it doing that bottom of the barrel or bottom feed or whatever. I can't remember what you called it.
Bottom
Docs.
surf.
Bottom surfing. There you go. If I was doing that, I think I'm less likely to do the thumbnail effect from YouTube, clicking on that profile to check it out because I can't see them. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Right.
I
yeah,
don't know if they're cosplaying. I don't know if they're focusing. If they've got multiple people on their stream, like um, yeah, it's an interesting
yeah,
parameter that every streamer ends up getting if they do start rating people.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the culture of raiding, like you said, is really important to Twitch because through raids and through hosts is how a lot of people, especially from like, for me, I don't do anything that's the norm on Twitch, right? I've been affiliated as a streamer for 3 years and I'm still hovering below 350 followers. My growth is very, very like I'll go 2-3 and not get any. I'll go 4-5 and not get any, because my content isn't. It's not. It's not real popular. Like I can do the podcast and I do tabletop RPGs and I play indie games and I do voice work and I do writing on stream. I do such an eclectic mix of something that for somebody to try and find me, you kind of really gotta like go looking, or you gotta know somebody, because
Yeah.
I have one hand essentially. My right hand is a claw because of a stroke I had when I was young, so I can't do first person shooters very well. I can't do a lot of like keyboard and mouse games really well. So for me as a streamer, I have to rely on this,
Yeah.
right? And my energy and my production value. Like you look at the background, how we're at a bar and I got cameras, I got lights. And I also have to rely on the value of my channel, how much time I can give you live, what I can offer as like incentives, because Twitch is a video game driven platform and I don't have the skills of like a Tim the Tatman or a Gay Mackem or a UK Monster. So for me, you really have to like I really rely on the raids and the host because I'm not going to be playing Apex or I'm not going to be playing Warzone or I'm not going to play League of Legends competitively because I'm so different. So having somebody willing to raid their community into mine or host my channel, for me it's like, all right, we got a bunch of new people. Here's the bar. Here's what we're serving. Make yourself comfortable. Tell me who you are, because that way I'm going to get interest. Like I'm going to generate that interest of you coming back, because you're going to look at, okay, what's Dox doing today? Okay, he's doing some whack ass indie I've never seen. But he's going to put a spin on it because he's going to crack jokes about it. He's going to talk about the writing style or the music or the development. And it's always going to be something different. It's not just, oh, it's another drop. Something different is always going to happen. I'm always going to talk about something different. I'm always going to bring up a different aspect or whatever, because that's what I have to do. Because I don't have, through no fault of my own, I don't have the skill set to do an Apex or stand out on skill alone. I have to rely on other things that make me unique, and that uniqueness has led me to be very niche. Like you said, you search tags to find the gay community or the Team Rainbow community or whatever. There's no tag for Dox's eclectic weird shit. So raid and a host and getting shout outs on Twitter and being able to lurk and network with streamers is one of the only ways I can grow, where there's other tools for like people who play certain games or whatnot. So I feel like the key for me is making my bar, or i.e. my channel, as much value and as much of an atmosphere as possible. Otherwise, like it's not gonna happen for me, because like I don't have those other things to rely on, like some streamers do. Like I don't have super motion graphics. I'm not great at a game, so I really have to present a production and a value that makes you invest in me. But then I also need to tread that line between, yes, you're coming to see me, you're coming to hang out with me, but realize that I'm still the bartender. There's still that relationship where there's a professional relationship of, I'm the guy in the room, I'm the guy chit chatting with you, but that's how it is. It's hard to explain. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think relying on tags is not like an essential thing for the platform. It's just a tool in the platform. And I think as long as you've got that energy and vibe when you're creating this content, it works. If people feel comfortable sticking around in your channel, they will. If they don't, they won't. It's as simple as that. People are quite cutthroat on. Is it that you get 7 seconds to make a first impression? And I think if you're focused on making sure that that first impression is valuable to them, they're going to stick around and be with you, regardless of ability or the ableness to play a certain game. They're going to be there for the connectivity that you've impressed on them. If you were walking down the street and the first thing you do is flip the bird to somebody
like
that person's that yeah, they're never going to come across to you and be your best friend then after, are they? They're more likely going to punch you or ignore you, move away from you. Like it's that, like I said, when I'm rating somebody and the person doesn't interact with that new community that comes in, I can see why there's a heavy reliance on it. But if you're not interacting with it, you've wasted an opportunity. You've lost first impressions, and sometimes it could be as simple as the platform that we're using puts an ad on, and that raid has all got an advert, and they're like, oh, I can't be asked with this 30-second advert. That first 7 seconds that you potentially had to do an impact has been lost because they've they've saw an advert for, I don't know, Coca-Cola or whatever, and it's that's something that you can never get over. So when you see, when you see a raid, sometimes you'll have like a 4 and a 5, or like the two numbers are different, and it'll be because they're getting adverts. So some people will be on mobile and don't get the advert instantly; they'll get the advert like 10 minutes in. But people on desktop will have the advert straight away because that's how Twitch is built, on this weird old architecture. So it's understanding the platform and how it impacts you. As a content creator, but as a community builder as well.
Yeah.
Do you find that's hard to understand? Did you find that difficult to? I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris, but he made an interesting comment.
I think the topic that you're going into is literally what I was going to ask.
Okay, what did you find it difficult to figure out yourself as a content creator, like how to like represent that, how to like find your sort of vibe?
Absolutely not. No. No, I found that was the most comfortable thing ever. Really? It might be because of my age, because I've always been forthcoming about who I am, what my likes, dislikes, and I'm generally like a really honest person. Like most people might have gone no there, but like if I'm comfortable in something, if I'm comfortable talking to people online, if I'm comfortable editing a video, I'll do it. I just have to have the motivation level to click that start button. So me as a content creator, at the first point, obviously I moved from Mixer to Twitch. So I created this account in 2012. So it's had a couple of reiterations, and I only really started once Mixer shut down. No, I've never found it that difficult to find out who I am as a content creator, because I've always been willing to change and try to see what kind of content people are sticking around and engaging for. And I think my content creator style on Mixer was more competitive focused, but then it was more actually I prefer, because like you don't get viewers for a long time. If I'm being purely competitive and I was winning all the games, which I never did, by the way, then I've only got a community that's around for me winning games. And I think as soon as I start losing games, I'm losing people. But as soon as I shifted my mindset, actually, I want to learn about people. People are more interesting than the game. The game's interesting, don't get me wrong, but the people that are around for that are more interesting. There's more about what they're about. There's more variables. There's more interesting points to learn from people than there is media.
I guess that makes sense. Chris, do you have a follow up before we got about 30 minutes? There's a few things I want to cover, but Chris, do you have
Sure.
another question?
No, I was just going to kind of touch on the fact that, like, you said that raids for Twitch is like such an important thing, and on a personal level, I can kind of go with that because I would not have met so many people that I have on Twitch without raids. Like, I first started actually using Twitch, like even though I started when it was just in TV, and then I never ever used my account, and it was July last year when I actually started, and I was on YouTube and found Sweet Anita clips on YouTube and thought, do you know what, I want to go into Twitch and see what she's offering there, and I kind of stuck around because it was just our streams were like insightful, wholesome, and just it was like. And it was she randomly raided Titan in the August because she usually goes in and she'll go to like a game bottom tier and just go right, whoever's got the lowest viewers, that's who we're going to, and she randomly raided Titan, so that's where I met Titan. I stuck around in the community and I've stuck with him since then. And then it was a month later that Titan raided Dox, and then again a month later Dox raided Monster, and then Monster raided you and Bill Bob and stuff like that. So it's like it's just been like that initial raid from Sweet Anita with 2,000 viewers gone to a small community, and that's where I kind of go, look, it's true, like going upwards doesn't make sense, but the point of it is going to that community that can use it, and like you said, you need to be able to grab it and take that opportunity because it's a big opportunity, especially when you consider with the 1% of Twitch, getting that grasp is what you need. And there's so many people that don't take that opportunity, like you said, that just don't interact, and like surely that's a big part of Twitch is the interaction with you. Otherwise, you would just sit and play the game at your house alone.
Or watch a YouTube video on it. Like there's no level of there's no interaction required on a YouTube video, right? You can click play, put it on the background, and leave it. That's essentially what lurking is on Twitch. But you can at any point interact with that streamer. The streamer see your message and go, "Oh yeah, good point. Let's talk about that now." And I think that's the essentialness of live streaming. So everybody on the live, welcome. But at any points, talking points from the VOD, the podcast after the fact, when it's edited down and trimmed, will only feel obliged to interact with the points that they are interested in or that we've brought up. But they could have, when we're live, asked us that question. And that is why Twitch and YouTube Live and Trovo, all these live platforms are missing out on a trick essentially with what their USP is, because they're trying to make all of them the same as these long advertising, recurring, rejuvenated viewership things, but people are there for the personalization of it. I think it's understanding what the platform does, how it does and doesn't work for you or your community, and trying to get the best out of it for not only you, but for the people coming by. Because if nobody came by to my stream, I'd be just streaming to myself for the sake of recording my life, I guess, because otherwise, that's essentially what it is. It's a VOD service, right? So you've just recorded everything you've done for the last 70 days, I think it is, on Twitch. Your VOD's still live for 70 days. Then after that, it's all gone. It's in the past. Never existed. YouTube, that exists forever, but again, platform and your choices.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision to become a content creator, whether it's streaming or YouTube or whatever. So I think the mentality of having to push that button is an interesting one. Like, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, for one. You have to be willing to kind of figure out yourself and your style, for two. And three, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you're going to get everything. Like, you're going to get people who are ignorant or uninformed. You're going to get people who understand your vibe. You're going to get people that may not have been exposed to what your brand is or whatnot. And you have to be able to move and adapt and understand, but also set those boundaries. Otherwise, you'll be overwhelmed. And I think, I know we got to get to the happy endings, but there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. Is one, advice for somebody who wants to do this job. Like, Chris and I have talked about advice, and we give little bits here if we're asked specifically or whatever. But for somebody in your situation, Anth, somebody who is of Team Rainbow and is thinking about becoming a content creator, what's some advice or some just like helpful little tidbits that you've gained that might be able to help somebody, or just kind of give them that push that they need to maybe start and do this or do something similar to what we're doing?
I've got two bits of advice. Advice point number one: don't expect the world to jump on your stream straight away. Accept that it is going to be a slow tumbleweed effect. If you accept that going into it, if you think you're going to go live and then 20 people are going to go streaming out, tune into you, whatever you've got to say in that 20 minutes, you're very, very naive at that point, because how do they know who you are? Why would they care? Like, you haven't given them any points of attack. It's learning how to communicate that message to the new people that stumble upon your profile as efficiently as possible. And you will fail at some points to convert people to long time participants of your channel, shall we say? But also use the people around you. I don't mean like use them. I mean, ask the people around you what they think your best assets are for content creation. If you're really good at playing the guitar, if you're an artist, if you think you're just average at playing games but you're really funny, or like, you work out what you are and what your USP would be, or what I say USP, unique selling point, if anybody didn't know that. Work out what makes you unique and push that as your first point, as your introductory, but then also embellish on it later down the line. And there's a quote from Mary Schmidt in the late 90s with advice as well. Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing out the past for disposal. So getting rid of all of what you've learned, wiping it off, painting over the ugly bits, and recycling it for what it's more than worth. So I can give this advice, but it doesn't mean I've necessarily taken it myself. I didn't reach out to the people around me saying, I'm going live this time. Can you tune in? Can you do this? This is my current goal and objective with this content creation. These are things I would have done better off earlier doors if I did that. But I think I'm in a comfortable place in my content creation career. I want to put air quotes on that, because I'm happy with what I'm pushing out, or what I'm putting online, and if somebody doesn't like it, they can let me know. I'm at the point where hate or negative comments, I acknowledge them. because like I said at the start, my thing is to acknowledge everybody's presence. And if
Mm.
your instant thing is to flip me off, I'd flip you off back. I acknowledge hate, I acknowledge everything, and then I move on from it, because it's just an interaction with another person at the end of the day. And you're going to get more and more interactions with other people throughout your life. Yeah.
That's I mean, I don't know how to add on to that, because that was succinct and very well spoken. So I mean, I guess that being said, I mean, other than going, I agree. I think that's a great way to sum it up. And shit, I don't know how to follow it up. So we're gonna move on to the happy ending, because it's about 2:40 and we only go till about 3. We go about 2.5, 3 hours, and I don't want to keep you too late.
Cool.
So Anth, you're welcome to stick around. We discuss the happy ending, add your 2 cents onto it, or you can dip out. It's your call.
I'll stick around, but I'm going to nip to open up the valve, as we spoke about earlier.
No worries, no worries. All right, for those of you that are new to the podcast, or just, you can dip out, Anthony. For those of you that are new to the podcast or longtime listeners, we like to end the stream, whether we have a guest or not, with something called the happy ending. And the happy ending is just a couple quick little stories that sometimes spiral into big conversations, but we'll try and they're positive. They're a positive thing that we kind of want to leave you on, and then kind of just bring a little good news to your life, and maybe kind of pick you up a little bit. So this week we had a couple stories. I know last week we started with Chris's, so I think we'll hit this week's. Mine is about a 13-year-old lad who was diagnosed with cancer and was accepted by Make-A-Wish to be granted a wish. And instead of wishing for something for himself, he decided to feed the homeless. So basically, 13-year-old boy granted to Make-A-Wish and uses it to feed the homeless every month for a year. So you got a 12-year-old by the name of Abraham who gets the absolute worst news possible. You got terminal illness, kid. But we're gonna give you a wish. We're gonna make a dream come true. What does Abraham do? He's like, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to feed people. Make-A-Wish was like, huh? We haven't had, and the article goes on to talk about how they hadn't had a selfless wish in over 20 years at this point. And I read the article, and I've kind of gone through the Make-A-Wish thing with my niece. She had cancer really bad when she was young, and you know, she got through Make-A-Wish, and the Make-A-Wish people are dope. But she went to Disneyland. No shade. That was her thing. Glad they were able to make it happen, because I sure the fuck couldn't. But this kid Abraham's like, I want to feed people. And that's what he does. Once a month, Make-A-Wish coordinates with local outreach groups, and they feed about 80 people. And I think, before I read the story, I didn't think that Make-A-Wish could do that. I didn't know that Make-A-Wish could do something like that. I just thought Make-A-Wish was like, oh, a kid gets a wish fulfilled. So I wanted to bring this story up, not only to give props to the kid for being a selfless person who thinks about others, even in, like, when he's going through ridiculous chemo and various other things, that he was like, my wish is to make sure no one goes hungry at least once a month. I don't know if I could do that, like, going through that. I don't know if I would be like, you know, I'm dying over here and I'm puking my guts out, but you know what? It's about them. So kudos to that kid. And I also wanted to talk about it because I didn't know Make-A-Wish could do this. I didn't know that this was a thing that Make-A-Wish was able to do. Thoughts, comments?
Well, I mean, it's the power of Make-A-Wish. Like, some of the stuff that they can do is just... And I think it's also that for Make-A-Wish, it's not necessarily just them. It's like there's a community.
Right. It's
so like you see like celebrities give their time, sportsmen give their time. That's the way it is. And I think with like this, like as you said, it's the first selfless wish in over 20 years where this 13-year-old kid has just been like, nah, homeless people, get them fucking dinner. And it's again, it's another one of the ones where it adds to the fucking, if more and more people were like can see that a 13-year-old has this selfless identity where it's like they can see where things are going wrong and want to fix it. It's like there's adults that don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Do you know a kid called Stephen? He before he died as well. Steve, he's really local to here. He raised around 2 million for charity before he died. He had cancer as well. He was 17, 18, and he just made bracelets, like handmade bracelets.
Remember the bracelet thing? I can remember the story of that.
So I think this kid is absolutely amazing for linking with that Make-A-Wish Make-A-Wish charity to do something so selfless. But is it one of the first things? Is it? I know, like, lots of kids in the Make-A-Wish program would like a better world. They'd like more refunding for other kids in the department. So they'll see little Sally with leukemia, or they'll see somebody with some other illness, and they'll go, "Can you fund that one, please?" And they'll, "Can you fund that one?" But I think the adamancy of this kid is absolutely noble. Like, that is his ultimate wish, and I think if you press a kid to change their mind to do something about them, they will. But I don't think this will be the first selfish kid ever to exist in Make-A-Wish. I think it's just the most selfless and adamant about their want to better the world. Because Make-A-Wish kids, how old are they normally? Like, what's the oldest Make-A-Wish kid could be?
I believe 17, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So if you were terminally ill in that age range, you're going to go with something that is entertaining, something that is fun for you to do before you don't get another chance, like Disney World, like going to Miami, going to Universal Studios, whatever that may be. Go and see a famous actor, have a celebrity come around to help you. Like, the Make-A-Wish Foundation is fantastic in what it does, and I think do we expect the Make-A-Wish Foundation to take the first wish of the kid? Because the first wish of the kid could be, I want a cupcake.
Right.
Do we want them to do something that is very like their ultimate wish right in that moment, or do we want it to do a certain monetary value? And that kid was so adamant that that monetary value should go to feeding as many people as they possibly could. And I think,
yeah, I find it interesting because the article goes on to talk about how he's not done. Like, in the article, it says as he's recovering, he wants to go beyond Make-A-Wish. Like, he's made his own thing called Abraham's Table. He's literally trying to make this a thing that's on a regular thing now, beyond the Make-A-Wish thing, and to be able to see what Make-A-Wish did and put you in contact with these community outreach programs, and then have the what's the word I'm looking for? Having the ability to push without Make-A-Wish's backing to make this a reality. I think that is going to be an interesting thing, because yeah, they're doing it with Make-A-Wish, and Make-A-Wish has got the backing and sort of like the resources to do it, to bring these community outreaches together, to raise the awareness. But then to have the kid go, well, when I get better, this is going to happen on a regular.
Yeah.
Hopefully that can be sustained. That's my ultimate, like, that's my ultimate hope. And the article doesn't say if that's going to happen, but it's gotten traction at the local news, and CBS, a major network here, has picked up the story, and they're talking about how he's a major inspiration. So hopefully that goodwill from the Make-A-Wish being the ignition point turns this into a regular thing for his community. 100%.
Absolutely. And I find it really interesting as well, the the amalgamation of two charity causes essentially here. You've got the local hunger, but you've also got the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is surprising and fulfilling wishes of vulnerable and terminally ill children, which is fantastic causes. The fact that they are able to cross over and have that overlay is because of this one kid.
Yeah.
But it's also really kind of sad that there's so many charities needed in place to fund these. And how, if you've got £100 or $100 right now to donate to a charity, you've got to pick and choose which charities they go to because they're most aligned to what your current priorities are as an individual. So if you're thinking a lot about suicide, you're going to pick something like mental health, mind, or something like that. If you're thinking about the troops, you're going to do Royal British Legion or Veterans Fund in America. If you've got kids and they're sick, you're going to go to Make-A-Wish. And I think there's only so much finite cash that the general populace has that could potentially better some of the core issues of society. So, like the gay community, the fact that there's a lot of homeless gay community in the gay community because the family kicks them out. That's something that I help fund with the LGBT Foundation. That's one of my running charity things, but that's only because that touched me personally. Like, do we have to impact everybody to make that charity or that cause become a non-issue? And that's what I find really sad, because there's so many good causes, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that is because like you often hear people like not necessarily complaining, but like you look at like cancer. Now, cancer is a widely known thing. It impacts everybody. Cancer does not give a fuck about who you are, what you do. It'll fuck you up, and that's it. But when you consider like just how many cancer charities there are, and like they're all doing different, like you'll have like the brain cancer clinic, and then you've got like bowel cancer, then you've got like the kind of overseers like cancer research and Marie Curie. Marie Curie is less of the cancer research, but it's more giving people with cancer a more comfortable lifestyle kind of thing. But like that's one thing that I often kind of think about is there's such a wide scale, but so many of these charities are sort of like they're touching on each other in certain things, like you said with like the LGBT Foundation. Homelessness within Team Rainbow is prevalent because getting kicked out and stuff like that. And then who do you go with then? Like, do you to support a and then like you considered like behind men suicide rates impact those within Team Rainbow, so it's like, well, there's another cause like that kind of touches on both, and it is like that. My confusion is like it is like it's sad to say that like what you're thinking about in that moment is where your money's kind of going to go, and it always seems to be that it just gets docked around for like as you're passing. And it's like with kids like this or just people like this where it is they've seen that barrier where two charities have been able to, well, we can both help make this a reality. Is it a case of maybe more charities have to start seeing those connections where they can go, well, if we can get two birds with one stone here, if we can start kind of understanding where these connections can be, is that a way we have to start looking more into it? Or is there another way that I mean, obviously, one way that we can go is like government start getting their finger out their ass and making these things not necessary. Like, we shouldn't have to raise 20 million to fund the NHS. That's a government thing. They should have done that. We don't have to raise money for feeding kids in schools, that's a
anything
government
and
issue.
well, within the UK, we're lucky in having the NHS as a platform which is publicly funded. If the public need to fund more, then we need to look at wages and more in the national insurance and stuff like that. That would then negate all health related issues if the NHS umbrella incorporated all health related stuff. So that that becomes a point of socialism.
Yeah.
Do we want? I know it's so bro. Like if you leave everything to the government to fund, that's a socialist society, and that scares people. But we all want a better world. We all want it to be safer. We all want to feel like our time on this earth matters, and we all feel like we'd like to help others out when they need it. And I think you've got to in your head, I want to donate to everything that I possibly can, but my cash is finite. I haven't got an infinite well of money.
Yeah.
But and my time is finite. I haven't got an infinite amount of time. My start date is already there. My end date's coming up. What can I do to make this place a better world? And one thing I can do is talk to people, learn about their stories, but also another thing is to talk about things that are causing issues. And I think as long as you're doing that, you're becoming net positive in your impact on your time on Earth. I think that's what we all want to strive for, and that's what that kid's done in Make-A-Wish. He's made his net time that little bit more positive than the other kids in the Make-A-Wish Foundation because he's helping more people than just himself.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about that because like Make-A-Wish is terminally ill. Kids they're either gonna make it or they're not. Like the chances of them making it, when Make-A-Wish comes through, they look at you and go, "Okay, kid, there's a good shot you're not gonna make it. So let's make this at least a little bit of happiness in your day in the time remaining." And again, we're not shitting on kids that go to Disneyland or whatever. We're just saying that a kid took that in that moment where he was handed pretty much the world, right? Because Make-A-Wish is like, we can get you to rock, we can get you this, we can do whatever. The kid had all of that in front of him and went, "That's great, but I want to make sure somebody else can eat." And I think the level of maturity and forthrightness and thought behind that is on another level. And I think for me, knowing the way I am, at 13, there's no way in hell I would have thought of that. No way in hell. And
the PlayStation 2.
Right? And if you want to even get more ridiculous, the kid's African American. Right? Like, how often are African American kids and people portrayed as thugs and undesirable or whatever? You get an African American kid who's 13, has the world laid out for him, and is like, "Don't feed people." I didn't hear about that. I had to go look for this story on a website that collates all this news. That should have been a national story. Regardless of his race or his age, the fact that a kid did a philanthropic thing when he could have had anything, the fact that he was 13 and he was African American is just another level of something that should have been brought to the forefront. And I think this kid and Make-A-Wish and the local communities that got together deserve all the kudos in the world, which is why I wanted to feature it on this week's Happy Ending.
Fantastic. Beautiful people doing beautiful things.
Facts.
I think.
And so this week for Chris, he's decided to bring the nature element in because that seems to be a huge thing with Chris and I on the Happy Ending. We tend to highlight nature and human interest. So this week we're looking at humpback whales. Chris, tell us what's going on with it.
Well, basically what's happened is they say within the last 25 years, but it's within the last COVID era. If we want to call it an era, we might want to forget about it because it's almost like the Depression. But like basically what it is they're talking about the beaches in the sea of Seattle. I think it's the Salish
the Salish, Salish
Sea. But basically, 25 years ago, they counted off just there was 11 documented calves of humpback whales. This year, when they've done the calculations, it's 21, which means it's basically doubled. And like the humpback whales coming into across the board, they have actually said that it's been 2021 has been a banner year for female humpbacks coming into the Salish Sea with new calves. Calves only travel with mum for a year or so, and then they're on their own once in familiar waters. They will often return a year to feed and stuff like that. Said the fact that with that, like 25 years ago, which was when like the whaling kind of fucking kicked. They said within the last like couple of years, there's been a massive turnaround in these things. Even in like the South Atlantic Sea, humpbacks had fell to 450, and they like that's all that was surviving. 450 humpback whales. In 2019, that number reached 25,000.
Nice.
Because of like the whaling laws and all that kind of stuff. But that sort of thing, I think Biden had put in the protection of like the Pacific Ocean. I know they've done extra off the coast of Australia at COP26, but Biden had put something like I think it's like 120,000 square nautical miles of Pacific Ocean for that. So that was like a great fucking thing. But it's just the fact that yet again, it's evidence is showing that 2 years of humans not being out and interacting and having to stay at home and that kind of stuff, it just shows you how little the human race is required for Earth, nature to actually exist. It's like, it just shows you how detrimental to that we have been. And like, I mean, like we've talked previously the last 2 years about fucking dolphins in the Venice canals, deer lying about London roundabouts and stuff. But this is another one where you're going like whales were like the humpback whales were an endangered species, and it's another species that we are no longer considering as endangered. We're starting to look at their habitat and protecting their habitat. The same with like the wildcats in Scotland and the larger cats in like America, Florida, and the wolves in Canada. Like these are now starting to like people are actually starting, and it's not just that people are starting to see it; it's that government and heads of state are starting to understand the importance of this movement of it. It's there's too many positives now that come from it that people can't deny anymore. Like you did have like a lot of deniers. I mean, like you didn't need this, you didn't need this, but now we're starting to see, well, with just this one change, so much good's coming from it. And I've always been the advocate of we need to start, because if the human race was to die out because of the fucking show that we've been putting on, what's been the point of the last 3, 4, 6,000 years? Like, what's the point in humans existing if there's nothing's going to continue on? If we'll have nothing to show for it, like, what is the point in even trying? And then you're like, that's where it's like, this is the reason, is we need to be able to make these changes to show it's worth the difference, and to see that, like, to go from 450 to 25,000 over 20 years is just a massive fucking number that just it's mind blowing to see something like. I mean, who doesn't love fucking whales? Whales are just like they might be big, but they're just like you. It's always because I mean, apart from the fuckers, killer whales, the fucking orca bastards,
Oriole assholes.
Yeah, but like cool whales, the ones that are in Finding Nemo that are amazing and we love them. They ones are cool. Why would you want to hurt them?
Right.
But it's just when I seen it and I thought it's another win. Because they're even saying this, like it was like over the last 2 years, the food for humpback whales has even risen because there hasn't been as many fisher like ships and that kind of stuff going out fishing. So that's another reason that it's actually started like growing their population. So it starts to make you think, like, do we just go into a proper lockdown for everybody for the next 10 years? Like, maybe that's a good idea.
Can I add two points on that? It's fantastic. So the WWF tracks all of the endangered species and the ones that are critically endangered, vulnerable, least concerned, and so on and so forth. The tracking of that only came around, I think, off the back of the Industrial Revolution and what I class as globalization of industry. So you can blame us British for the empire and connecting the world together. But I think what we've done in the last, well, pretty much since the turn of millennia, obviously the 80s, the network, the internet network, the instant communication, and the tracking has allowed the communication and coordination of groups of people to, one, highlight issues, and two, start addressing them. Before that, to the Industrial Revolution until the technology connection, there was just chaos. We were expanding at some point. We were just expanding and expanding, digging out resources and going, the world's ours. We're dominating it, and now we're going. Actually, we need to consider if we want to stay on the planet, we need to calm down a little bit and work out what's best for us. And I think, like I said, the ability to talk to somebody across the world instantly is amazing, and I think that, for me, is the first sign of progress as humanity for all of us to say this is how we save the world.
Oh, so, definitely.
If you ask me this and we're in the 70s or 80s, I would be like, yeah, it's bleak. Nothing's going to change, but there you go.
I think the core of this story for me, as I read it, it just goes to highlight that there needs to be a dramatic shift in the philosophy of industry, commerce, and like logistics, because you've got at one point there's 450 humpback whales, right? They're not being seen. The article says they're not showing up. COVID hits, shipping is reduced, fishing is reduced, all of that's reduced. Whales come back. Dolphins are in the canals of Venice again. That to me is the frying pan to the face evidence that we need to shift our philosophy and our application of our commerce strategies, our shipping strategies, our fishing and feeding strategies, so that not only we as a species of animal ourselves can flourish and thrive, but if we don't make this shift, the animals that we are alongside daily are not going to be around, and once they're not around, we're fucked. Like, it's more and more evidence to show that we need to make this shift in the way we do business, so that not only do we consider our needs, we consider their needs as well, because if we don't got them, we don't got, we don't have fish, we don't have air. If we cut down trees, there needs to be a dramatic shift. And this is yet another article of every article that Chris and I have brought up the last year and a half of nature is integral to the survival of the human species. So wake the fuck up and start doing something about it. And I love it because it's just like, I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it to my relatives up north who are like, oh, we don't need wolves. Bitch, you do. They shape the environment. They make your deer hunting better. Oh, we don't need this. Bitch, you do. Because that fish you love to eat, it needs its predator to maintain a healthy balance. So fucking do something about it. And I think it's great. And I think having articles like this continue to hammer those points home for people like me and people like you who are like, listen, jackass, nature's important. fucking start making better business practices. And if we keep pounding these articles out, we keep highlighting how important that nature is, or how our reduction in our production, or a redispersion of our production would benefit us by benefiting them, is another way that we might pull our asses out of the frying pan. Personally, that's my thought when I read this article. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, well, it's like I agree with both you. It's just what you'd said was like with the Industrial Revolution and just how blasé everybody was back then. It's like, oh, we just keep on pilling and keep on tearing down and just take what we want. And like even up to like even through the kind of technological rise that we've had over the last like 20 years, like the people in the top places were still those same people that were no, we can keep digging, we can keep drilling, we can keep. And I do think that it's like you'd said earlier, and we're now at a point in society where more people are starting to call out shit. And I think that's where it's the same way in this part, is that people are now starting to go, hold on, that isn't working for us as a species now, or as a planet. And I think it all kind of ties in, where it's like we're now starting to go, right, we need to make these changes, otherwise we are all fucked.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Do you have a final point, Anth?
Yeah, I think we've said it a lot here around, like, we agree with each other on what's generally good for the planet, for like to make a wish for the endangered species. I think what we also need to do is be comfortable enough in challenging each other and saying I disagree with you on that, and being comfortable in accepting that somebody can disagree with you. Because everything we've just said, we're all in agreement, but somebody could go, no, we can keep digging. No, we can keep doing that. We can keep doing it until it's a certain point. So I think it's allowing that opinions as a collective are stronger, and understanding people are people, and the nature of people is to win.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think that it's like it's opening up that door for education as well, and that it's not that other people are just like, a lot of the times it's not an actual belief that they have, it's something that they've been taught and again raised and all that kind of stuff. And I think like it is important to, like, that's one of the things that we have kind of wanted this podcast to be, is that it's that there's always two sides to everything, and listening and understanding the other side against you will help you better understand like your own points. Like you can be on like there's a good side and a bad side. Say you can be on the good side and still not be educated enough in that to know why you're fighting. And I think it is like it's you need to be able to be open-minded enough to kind of understand why you are fighting your side, as well as, because if you know what the other person's fighting against, it makes your argument kind of better to be able to go, right, well, I understand that, but here's, like, in a calm manner of, well, here's what information I've got to be able to, because they might turn around and go, well, here's the information I've got, and then you can go, oh fuck, even on the good side, that I can understand why you've made that point. So yeah, I don't want to agree with you with what we just said, but I have to agree with you.
Well, that being said, I know we ran a little long because the conversation has been really good, and we talked over so many points, and there was a lot of points that we didn't get to that I wanted to cover, which just means we're gonna have to have Gay back sooner rather than later. But at this time, towards the end of the show, we like to plug our shit and kind of give everybody to go where they need to go. So, Anth, tell the people who you are, what you do, and where they can find you, please.
So I'm Anth the Mackem, Gay Mackem. I'm on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube I'm on Twitch and Twitter as Gay Mackem, all one word. I'm on YouTube as Anth the Mackem, and yeah, come by whenever you want.
Hell
Say
yeah,
hello.
100%. Chris, where do people find you?
You could get me right across all social medias. Basically, is Chris is C90. I've tried to keep it simple, and because I get confused when I have to add in different usernames.
And branding is important. And you guys know me. I'm DoxRyan. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok at DoxRyan, because branding's a thing. We really love that you're a part of the conversation. There's been a lot of people, Azim especially, making comments, and we appreciate that. Hopefully we address them. You guys are amazing. Anth, it's been a pleasure. This is the first time I've actually had a chance to really sit down and interact with you. I know we did a little bit on Monster Stream, and I popped in your streams a couple times. But, dude, hella good show. I appreciate you coming on. We hope to have you back soon. So, guys, do me a favor and tell the good people that we're tell them bye, because we're about to end. So, bye, guys.
Oh, don't forget drunktank.com.
That too. Yeah, you can find. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Yeah, right up above my head. You can find us at thedrunktank.com. But
Good
hey,
to have
fellas,
one professional on the show.
you know what? He's better than us. All right. I'm winging it. I'm literally in 32 degrees, freezing my ass off, doing what I can. So I'm gonna miss a thing or two.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Say bye, Chris.
Yeah, bye, Chris.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.